Throne of the North. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 226 The Grand Duke's Change. What happened in the study of Grand Duke McReynolds was known to no one except the Grand Duke and the four earls. The servants in the castle only knew that after the unidentified guests left, the Grand Duke was very angry. He smashed his favorite porcelain and made a mess in the study. Father, Roland appeared beside McReynolds at night, a little afraid of his father, the Grand Duke. "You're back." Grand Duke McReynolds looked at Roland, and his calm emotions rose again. Why did they know that we traded weapons with the North Wind Province? Thinking of what the earls vaguely revealed, Grand Duke McReynolds couldn't help but have a headache. What Earl Wilcox failed to finish made him realize that his army was not as pure as he imagined. It shouldn't be a problem with the army. The knights are all loyal to you, but the soldiers don't know where the weapons come from. Roland was extremely humble in front of the Grand Duke. He knew what he was going to say next, and he said speculatively, "Perhaps, someone in your bloodline can't help showing off." Although it was a guess, Roland was very sure that this was the fact. The McReynolds family was very large. In addition to the eldest son and him, the Grand Duke's descendants also had some illegitimate children who were not allowed to see the light. This was due to the Grand Duke's decades of learning about the Empire. The life magicians and the priests in the churches in the Grand Duke's territory were all his people, which reduced the probability of infant mortality. Over the past few decades, the population in the territory has grown, and the strength of the dukedom has increased little by little, which has led to the royal family's vigilance. This is also a reason the Grand Duke also fell silent. This is something that is difficult to change. His army is now all in the south to fight against the armies of those noble lords, and the one who controls the army is naturally his bloodline. Of course, there are other nobles in the Andorra kingdom who are fighting against those noble lords, such as Viscount Fragoso, and the four earls before have armies. Therefore, when the people below met, many things became complicated. A bunch of useless things. Grand Duke McReynolds could not help but scold. He was angry at the choice of the four Grand Dukes. After a long time, the Grand Duke calmed down and looked at his trembling second son Roland. "Has the second batch of weapons from the North Wind Province been delivered?" "Yes, father. The quality of the weapons is very high. I kept most of them in our hands." "They want food." "Yes, Baron Frozen Earth hopes that we can sell them some food. This is a long-term transaction. It may be an exchange every year." Grand Duke McReynolds nodded. He didn't care about a little food. "Tell me, what is the army of the Empire like?" "I don't know. I didn't dare to learn too much when I went to the North Wind Province this time." He knew his father very well. While being extremely vigilant to the Holy See, he was also wary of the huge empire and didn't want to have more contact. Who knew that the next sentence of the Grand Duke made Roland look surprised? "Maybe we should make changes in the future." The four earls did not explicitly reject him, but it was difficult for them to agree with him, which Grand Duke McReynolds could still see. To put it bluntly, the things he said in the interests were not enough to shake the choices of those earls. They were already nobles who were on good terms with him, and they were all like this, and the other nobles in the kingdom were even more so. Nobles of all sizes must see definite benefits, but now that the king is selling out the interests of the kingdom, it is Grand Duke McReynolds who is harming the interests the most. For other nobles, they have not seen the huge threat brought by this incident. In other words, they have not felt the damage to their own interests. This led to the fact that although there were many nobles standing by his side, McReynolds still felt that he was fighting alone. He needed friendly forces, or the kind of friendly forces that could clearly become allies and become enemies with other nobles in the kingdom and the church. The Empire can meet this condition, but the Empire is too large, so the nobles of the Empire can also meet its conditions. Grand Duke McReynolds thought a lot in the study before, and he figured out a lot of things. He thought he needed to make changes. The same is true for the McReynolds family. Has the team from the frozen territory left? Not yet. They are going to buy some food and other items from the Andorra kingdom and bring them back to the frozen territory, go and pull their team over and sell them some of our resources. We can also sell them some extraordinary potions for breeding magical beasts and some priest scrolls from the church. The Empire really needs these things, then ask them to bring some specialties from the Empire and the frozen territory to trade with us next time they come. Roland nodded and looked at his father with some surprise. "Father, will this attract the attention of the royal family?" Upon hearing this, Grand Duke McReynolds was furious. "What are you paying attention to? The Andorra royal family has directly placed the church's army on the land of the kingdom. What's wrong with me just doing some business with a baron from the north? Is there anything in our McReynolds family that Edo would like to see? No matter what we do, it will be problematic in the eyes of the royal family. Roland, you have to understand." Grand Duke McReynolds' eyes became extremely deep at this moment. "Yes, father." Roland bowed his head deeply. "Okay, go and make the arrangements." Roland left the castle and appeared in a city on the plain far below the castle. This was one of the 3 cities in the Grand Duke's territory. It was the closest to the castle and the Griffin Mountains, which made it very prosperous. When arranging people to find the caravan of the Frozen Land territory, Roland met an unexpected person. "Roland? You're back." Compared to Roland, whose eyes were 3 parts noble, 3 parts melancholy, and 3 parts majestic, and whose body was well proportioned and perfect, the sturdy man in front of him was too knight. His sturdy muscles could not even be covered by the gorgeous noble clothes on his body, and his aura was even more barbaric. This was the change brought about by the Alpine Knight breathing method. Often, only one lucky knight out of 100 can perfectly comprehend the charm of the Alpine Knight breathing method. Roland's expression was respectful, because the sturdy man in front of him was his elder brother. "Otto, why are you back? Why, you don't like to see me back?" Otto McReynolds blinked, then strangled Roland's neck. "What are you planning to do?" "I came back to see my father and want him to send me to the battlefield in the south." "Can you help me? The battlefield in the south is too dangerous." Roland frowned. No one knew that the Grand Duke's army had already clashed with the army led by the nobles in the south. Because of the deal made by King Andorra, these nobles wanted to enter the Griffin Mountains. Strictly speaking, more than half of the Griffin Mountains had been allocated to them. Chapter 227 The Baron's 3 Letters. Appia felt like he had found a big fish. In the past few days, he followed Baron Halfman. He found that this nobleman, in addition to committing adultery during the day and scolding his subordinates, was also very busy at night. Every night, he would write a letter to His Highness Hernan, who was far away somewhere unknown. Finally, today, Appia waited for Baron Halfman to send a letter. It was a golden eagle, handsome and extraordinary. It flew from a distant place to Baron Halfman's castle, and then took away Baron Halfman's letters in the past few days. The golden eagle was very fast. Appia guessed that even if it was surrounded by griffins, the golden eagle could fly out of the encirclement. Appia thought that Baron Halfman would finally stop, but he didn't expect that he was still writing a letter the next night. "Your Highness Hernan, today is the last day of April." After a lot of nonsense, Baron Halfman put the letter in the secret compartment, and then took out a blank piece of letter paper. This time the beginning was different. "My friend Ramors, how are you these days? I still recall the fire I bathed in the Holy Church last winter. You are right. It was the gaze of the gods. His eyes looked at us humble people, and he gave us fire to dispel our coldness." Appia didn't know what to say again. Baron Halfman was more sociable than he thought. But the next words on the letter almost made Appia unable to hide in the shadows safely. "I think you are right. Light is born in flames. The fire of life dispels the winter in the north and gives humans a warm land of their own. With flames, we are not afraid of the cold in the north. With flames, we can dispel all the beasts. We bathe in the glory of flames. It is the sunset glow. He always exists, but we are only qualified to watch the dusk when day and night alternate. But I still have some doubts. Is what you said true? He really responded to your prayers in the sunset glow of a certain day. If possible, I also hope to pray for his attention this winter, not the Lord of Dawn." Appia saw a lot of information in Baron Halfman's letter. The gods mentioned by Halfman are definitely not the Lord of Dawn. Otherwise, if the words that light is born in flames are spread out, they will be treated as heresy. However, what surprised Appia was not over yet. Baron Halfman placed the letter on the candlelight and watched the letter turn into ashes. It seemed that this way allowed him to pass the letter to a distant place. Then, he took out the third piece of letter paper. The quill pen continued to write, and this time the beginning was different again, even with honorifics at the very beginning. "Honorable Grand Duke Myers, forgive me for only being able to communicate with you in this way, but you know that my father, your useless child, ran away from home and arrived in another country, but he always told me that he regretted his choice. He told me that I must not forget my name, even if I carry different honors. But the inheritance of the nobility will not be cut off because of this. What I want to tell you is that just in these few days, a big event happened in the Andorra Kingdom. Grand Duke McReynolds told us that the Andorra royal family stationed a supernatural legion of the Holy See on the land of the kingdom. He was very angry. He regarded himself as an indispensable part of this kingdom. Perhaps Grand Duke McReynolds was more unwilling to see the decline of the kingdom than the Andorra royal family. For the land of the kingdom, Grand Duke McReynolds has sent troops to the south and started a war there. No one knows, not even the Andorra royal family knows that the war has broken out. Perhaps what Grand Duke McReynolds said is right. The royal family is corrupt, the old king is incompetent, His Highness Hernan has no opinion, the princes are after power and wealth, and the Andorra royal family has lost the last legend. They can no longer refuse the arrival of the Holy See, but we all know that the Wind Emperor has always had a bad temper. Even when he was a noble, Huffman wrote a lot, but he had no way to send the letter to where it should appear. So after a long time, Huffman sighed deeply in his study, and finally, he burned the letter. It was an ordinary candle flame. Appia was silent in the shadows. After a few days of observation, he thought that this was just an ordinary Baron Noble, just like Baron Hatton who appeared in the frozen land every few days, a noble borer who enjoyed the shadow of his ancestors. But tonight all his views changed. This Baron Huffman is more terrible than anyone imagined. He was in contact with the outer gods, and was not sure if they were evil gods, but in the world illuminated by the light of the Lord of the Morning, his courage surpassed countless people. He was in contact with a prince of the royal family in the camp of Grand Duke McReynolds, writing a letter every day, and never missed a day, even if it was all nonsense. He also had an inexplicable close relationship with the Grand Duke of the Empire, Grand Duke Myers, who led the Nightmare Knights. Who did he betray? Appia didn't know. He felt that Baron Huffman had betrayed everyone, but he was loyal to everyone in the letter. Baron Huffman loyally told His Highness, who was far away in the palace, about everything that happened on this land, and also expressed his faith to the followers of the gods, and was concerned about his powerful neighbors and elders of the bloodline. During the day today, Appia also saw Baron Huffman firmly transporting supplies, wood and stones to the army of Grand Duke McReynolds. Many of them were transported to the south, and hundreds of slaves and 100 soldiers were sent there. Appia couldn't understand. He could only write down what he saw and send it back to the frozen territory. The nobles are really powerful, Appia thought so, and he suddenly felt that this task was not easy. It would take some time for Edward to return to the frozen territory. I hope that Master Ryan will know how to deal with this kind of thing by then. What Appia didn't know was that Master Ryan had been a little overwhelmed recently. The sequelae and impact of the war finally began to erupt, and all this led to Ryan suddenly becoming busier than before. I said that the development of that alternate world will begin, but not now. In a month, no, half a month, at most half a month, I will take my army there, go back and tell those nobles that the development of the alternate world requires a lot of manpower. They have finished spring plowing and are free, but I haven't yet. Chapter 228 War and Tax Exemptions. The gate to the other world is right there, and anyone can enter. However, after the nobles of the North Wind province entered several times, they found that the natives of that world were not easy to get along with. The human natives were barbaric and primitive, and the beasts of that other world were all tall and mighty. In addition, the unique mountain forest environment made it difficult for the army to clear them on a large scale, resulting in the nobles suffering a lot of losses during this period, but not much gain. Naturally, this group of people thought of Ryan. No, there are so many things to do in the frozen land now, where's the time? Ryan said to Butler Beard on the Rhino Horn Mountain, and then looked at the vast northern border with some worry. It is not cold now, but looking north from the frozen land, there are still a lot of mountains covered with ice and snow. I don't know if these ice can be melted this summer. Last year's blizzard was scary enough. If there is another blizzard this year, this winter will be very cold too, Ryan sighed. No one knows what a year's winter will be like earlier than the frozen land territory. When experience and inertia cannot explain the weather, it means that a huge change has taken place. We have to prepare for the winter in advance. Beard, you are responsible for this matter, follow your wishes. Beard was a little tired, because the frozen land territory is now too much. The watchtower on the mountain needs the transportation and route of materials, the development of terraces, the transportation of land and stones, and the frozen land territory has begun to migrate some of the population to the surrounding areas of the terraces to defend against wild animals and protect the planted food. In the towns under the Rhinoceros Horn Mountain in the territory, everyone is busy because of things from all directions. This is still the closer ones. For the farther ones, there are some teams in Lingdu County responsible for going to the territories of those nobles to hand over. What are they handing over? Ryan tripled the number of orders from the Southern Chamber of Commerce because the extra part was sent to the Andorra Kingdom. Someone needs to hand over this batch of weapons. A little further away, Tishan County opened up trade between the two counties because of the war, and now they are gradually contacting each other. The economic products from the north and the other plains in the frozen land are gradually invading the market there. The same is true for Thundercloud County. There are only 3 ways for the nobles there to be accepted into the circle of the North Wind province again. 2 of them are the 2 earls, and the third is to go through Ryan to avoid being used by other nobles to talk about the war related to the church and the subsequent compensation and land conflicts. These things require more than just manpower. Finally, there are many lands belonging to Master Ryan in Thundercloud County, most of which are used to grow magical crops. The people sent are not just serfs, but also knowledgeable people and soldiers to protect those places. With so many troubles, Ryan needs to take care of too many things, so naturally he has no time to develop any other planes. As for the matter of wintering, it can only be handed over to Beard, who has countless things to do. By the way, don't cut down the trees on the North Mountain. One more tree will make the frozen land territory warmer. For the north, Ryan not only cannot cut down trees, but also vigorously develop a forest ranger system to plant trees, otherwise the winter wind in the north will make the frozen land territory taste the coldness of this world. Forget it, firewood and so on, don't cut down the trees in the south. Ryan didn't know how much effect the trees in the mountains and forests had on resisting the cold, but he gave up all the options in the frozen land territory with the idea that rabbits don't eat grass near their nests. Going to the east, a farther place, wouldn't it be necessary to open a path to the Andor Kingdom? Start from here. After a while, I will go to the other plain in Thundercloud County. There are countless trees there, and I will transport them back as firewood. Ryan's decision reduced a lot of work for Beard. He respectfully left the castle and began to arrange the rest of the things in a hurry. But not long after, Beard returned to the castle again. Master, someone is coming from Count Winter's place. Oh, Ryan's eyes were settled. He knew that there was something wrong when all those nobles suddenly came to him. Ryan put away the data parchment in front of him and went to the castle hall. Mr. Hora, why is it you? Ryan looked at Hora Winter in front of him with some surprise. How could this earl's brother, a powerful sky knight, come to the frozen land in person? Something. Hora looked around, and Ryan waved his hand to let all the servants leave. Can you tell me now? Hora thought for a while and said, after the war, the Winter family began to strengthen its relationship in the south. The North Wind province belongs to the Empire. There is no doubt about it. Under the operation of the Earl, the destruction of 1,000 holy heavenly knights was recognized by the Empire, thus exempting the North Wind province from taxes this year. When he said this, Ryan's face had already become bad. Just this year, Hora nodded. Only this year. The Earl was also very angry, but the Empire also said that it would purchase a large number of iron weapons from the North Wind province. That's a good idea. Give us money, buy our resources, and finally take back the gold coins in our hands in the form of taxes. Ryan took a deep breath. He didn't think that this war would allow the Empire to relieve the taxation of the North Wind province. He didn't even think that the tax exemption policy would last for 10 years, but 3 to 5 years would be enough. Unexpectedly, it was only 1 year. The war in the south doesn't look optimistic. Ryan sighed. The Empire shouldn't do this at this time. But there was only 1 year of tax exemption, which meant that something else affected the victory of the war in the north. Hora was extremely surprised, because after hearing the news, Earl Winter was angry for more than 2 hours before he calmed down and figured it out. Baron Ryan in front of him actually thought of it the first time in the north. Yes, the Earl also knew that the war in the south must have influenced the decision. After asking through channels in the south, the Earl learned that the Empire suffered heavy losses in the war in the Thousand Lakes province. Another naval fleet on the west coast was severely damaged, and no one knows the reason. In addition, many Legion commanders in the Thousand Lakes province were assassinated. Ryan was surprised. but did not ask any more questions. But this is not the reason why I came to the frozen land to meet you, Baron Ryan. Hora also fell silent and said seriously, just a month ago, the Columbus royal family crowned a royal family member as a believer of light, the god of light, the lord of the morning, the favored one of the gods, and the great emperor of the empire, the ruler of the land. His title is Marcus of the North Wind. Ryan's eyes widened in an instant. Chapter 229, Marcus Befing. Marcus of Befing? Among the 5 ranks of nobility in the empire, the Marcus is special, because all the Marquises are members of the royal family. They firmly hold the title of Marcus, cutting off the possibility of all earls making little progress and thus annexing land. The emergence of the Lord system determined the improvement of the status of the 5th-rank nobles, because the birth of the Lord title showed that it would be more difficult for others to become nobles in the future. Naturally, the titles of barons and 5th-rank nobles were improved. But after carefully studying the history of this world, Ryan understood that the Lord system was not the first time. The emergence of the Lord system showed that the status of the 5th-rank nobles was improved again. Why once again? It was because of the Marcus. After the Pan-Plane War of the Gods, only the royal family could serve as the Marcus of the empire. Above the earl was the Marcus, and above the Marcus was the duke. But since the Marcus could only be served by members of the royal family, it was impossible for the earl to become a Marcus. Naturally, it was difficult for the earl to gain more voice and wealth by upgrading his title. If the difficulty of upgrading from earl to Marcus is 1, and the difficulty of upgrading from Marcus to duke is 10, then theoretically, as long as you complete these 11 levels of difficulty, you will have the opportunity to become a duke. But the fact is that after failing to upgrade step by step, the difficulty for the earl to move from earl to duke is not 11, but 100. It is 1000. This is the first implicit solidification of the 5-level title, but it only affects the great nobles and has nothing to do with other people, so it was not as lively as when the Lord system appeared. The emergence of the Lord system is actually the same as the change of the Marcus system in nature. In short, all the Marquises in the empire, even in the entire southern land, are members of the royal family or the royal family. Within the empire, the Marcus is not necessarily stronger than the earl, just like in the province of Calais. The strength of the Earl of Clayton's family exceeds that of the Marquis of Calais, and this is the case in many provinces. The royal family can suppress the Earl's title, but it is difficult to cut off their strength in all aspects that has been gradually improved over the years, which leads to the fact that when people talk about great nobles now, they generally think that there are only earls and 4 grand dukes. The Marcus gradually became the eyes of the royal family, supervising the nobles in the province. The master of the empire was more powerful than all the great nobles, so in the province, no noble would have conflicts with the Marcus. After all, the Marcus was only weaker than some earls. This did not mean that the Marcus was weak, but that those earls were strong. How could the Marcus be weak in all aspects of political power, plus the fiefdom? The change of the Marcus broke out in the initial war between theocracy and monarchy. The first war between the church and the empire was tragic and bloody. The church could not accept that there would be people in the world who dared to refute their believers of the gods, and the Columbus royal family and the great nobles of the empire were also worried that because this war was unprecedented, some nobles would backstab them and start a war with the church. This is also the reason why the Marcus system did not cause any waves. They all needed the noble title of Marcus to supervise other nobles, because in the war between theocracy and monarchy, the bloody massacre of the church by the empire was also a purge within the empire. Ryan thought to himself, why did the empire have a clear ban prohibiting the killing of nobles within the empire? It meant that nobles should not die in the war. This ban protected many nobles. But the fact that this ban was written already explains the problem. It was because that purge was too scary that the empire had to write down this ban to calm the nervous hearts of the nobles. Also, why did the nobles of the North Wind province become active all of a sudden after discovering that Earl Weiss was colluding with the church? On the contrary, the nobles of Thundercloud County recalled their troops as soon as possible. It was also because, in that war between theocracy and royal power, the nobles who were able to survive and pass on were all nobles who stood firmly on the side of the royal power. Otherwise, their ancestors would have died long ago. It is precisely because of this that in the inheritance of various families, the existence of the church was repeatedly ordered to be dead. Those who could not collude were their enemies. The first Marcus was born in this environment to supervise the nobles not to collude with the church and stab other people in the empire. But after 100 years, everything will change. All the nobles of Northwind Province resisted the church and killed 1,000 holy heavenly knights. How could the empire crown the Marquess of Northwind? Ryan asked Hora. Northwind Province is the only province in the empire without a Marquess. This should also involve the political struggle in the south. After all, it was fine 100 years ago. 30 years ago, Northwind Province became the land of the empire. At that time, the situation was clear. The royal family wanted the Marquess to come to Northwind, but other nobles were unwilling. So, the fact that Grand Duke Myers lost once in the political struggle 30 years ago does not mean that the royal family won. They are also losers because the Marquess of Northwind did not appear 30 years ago. But now, according to the news that the Earl knows, the Columbus royal family took advantage of the new round of war with the church to crown the Marquess of Northwind. After Hora finished speaking, his voice began to soften. Obviously, the next words were also gossip and not evidence. It is said that the Columbus royal family and other great nobles discussed and used the coronation of the Marquess of the Northwind to consolidate the belief in the gods within the empire. In the face of the empire, the Marquess of the Northwind is the most powerful pioneer of light. He is the favored one of the God of Light and the Lord of the Dawn, and has been blessed by the gods to offset the person of the Son of God created by the Church. He is a person of divine grace, a person of divine grace. This is the second time Ryan has heard this name. At that time, the old butler Beard and even many people in the Frozen Land territory believed that Ryan was a person of divine grace, but he himself did not think he was like one. But now really? He asked, and Hora said that he did not know, but with the means of the empire. It should not be difficult to create a person of divine grace. Whether true or false, this matter involves the war between the empire and the church, and it seems that the appearance of this Marquess of the Northwind is the right decision of the empire. But Ryan asked quietly, where's the territory of the Marquess of Befen? He has no territory commensurate with the title, but the empire has designated a radius of 100 miles around Thundercloud Mountain in the name of the Marquess of Befen. Both of them were silent. After a long time, Ryan sent Kala away. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 230, Silver Saddle White Horse, The Truth of the Andorra Kingdom. To this day, Ryan still doesn't know the name of the Marquess of the Northwind. He is not busy in vain. After receiving Hora, Ryan appeared on this Vati fairy plain. Boom! The earth is shaking, the skies roaring, and at the junction of heaven and earth, thousands of wild horses are galloping. Their upright and heroic posture and heroic momentum make Ryan feel immersed from the bottom of his heart every time he comes. It seems that all the fatigue in the frozen land has disappeared at this moment. Master McKen is very busy, busier than Ryan, but he is very happy. There are no buildings here, only tents and fences. According to Master McKen, they should live according to the customs of the wilderness. However, this camp is still close to the vast snow-capped mountains in the north. When Ryan looked up, the vast and majestic mountains were clearly visible. Master McKen believes that in this environment, it is possible to accelerate the cultivation of complete warhorse blood, that is, northern warhorses that can withstand the cold winter. They are not inferior to Highland warhorses. They have a wider world than Highland warhorses. One day, they will gallop in the world of howling winter winds. Archmage McKen said this, and Ryan came to Winter, the horse king of this wilderness world, the raging wind of the north. After so much time, with a large number of magic potions and blessings, Winter has become tall and mighty. Behind its handsome eyes is flowing brown hair. Seeing Ryan coming, it lowered its head and gently touched Ryan's palm with its head. Ryan felt a strong blood and ki, gentle and lasting. This is the blood and ki power of Winter, but between them, the blood and ki are connected at this moment. Ryan knew that this was the effect of the knight's breathing method, which was used to cultivate the tacit understanding and combat cooperation between the knight and the mount. I heard that in the Griffin Legion under the command of Grand Duke McReynolds in the Andorra Kingdom, each griffin will recognize its master when it is young, just like the magic beasts, and only recognize one person. This has increased the combat effectiveness of the Griffin Legion, and now we have it too, Ryan said with a smile, and someone brought a silver saddle to fix it on Winter's back. After everything was done, Ryan turned over and jumped on Winter, whose back was now 2 meters and 5 meters high. Go! With a cold wind whistling in his ears, Ryan was like a stream of snow-white light, galloping on the land of this wilderness. He raised his head, and under this unpolluted sky, he saw a stream of light passing from the end of the sky in the clear world. The silver saddle illuminated a white horse, and it was as rustling as a meteor. Ryan thought of what he had learned before, that the memory and world that was getting farther and farther away seemed to overlap with the world today, and finally, everything blended like flowing water. I own an endless world. Ryan ran wildly across the field, laughing loudly, letting the cold wind blow into his mouth. He always took time to come here, not for the progress of his warhorse training, but to enjoy the winter surging across the earth at this moment. Frozen territory. In the castle, Ryan and Etria were writing and drawing on the table. We need to prepare more supplies for the winter, not only this year, but also next year and beyond. We need to choose some places to build granaries. But at present, silos have the highest cost effectiveness, but in this case, regarding this year's food arrangements, some of it will need to be taken out to dry, otherwise the food will not be able to be preserved in a damp state. Build silos in the territory, and also build one at the foot of Rhinohorn Mountain to supply your castle expenses, and build a few more silos on those mountains to store food and supplies. At the same time, you also need to arrange militia to guard and patrol. It seems that your army needs to expand again. Except for the gold coins used to purchase those magical products, the territory's account can barely maintain these plans. Most of the time, it was the chief consul of Etria who spoke, and Ryan would give opinions from time to time, which made the consul's eyes light up. If it's too cold in winter and your people can't go out, you can also use it for weaving and forging. There are so many prey in the north that we can't hunt them all. We have stored a lot of animal skins. The value of these things can be increased by 30% if they are sold directly to other places or processed and then sold again. In this world, the value of labor is very low, but Etria thinks that since everyone has nothing to do in winter, it's better to use it. In addition, I also suggest buying some strong liquor from the Danube province for storage. These things are needed to dispel the cold in the winter in the north. Especially in winter, most of the places where people gather in the territory are in markets and taverns. Our fruit wine will be popular in the south, but our food cannot support us in brewing strong liquor. Let the trade team sell fruit wine in the south and trade strong liquor through barter. The further south, the greater the value of our fruit wine, but it seems that the trade team can't go that far at present. Etria is an excellent governor, and many details are arranged in an orderly manner that Ryan could not have imagined. It seems that Etria should be the busiest person in the frozen land, but as far as Ryan knows, she can take some time every day to go to the blacksmith shop to improve her forging skills. She is busy, but not busy at all. Is this the world of genius? Ryan can only envy her. After saying goodbye to Ryan, Etria left, jumping and hopping, reminding Ryan that she is just a half-grown girl. 2 more days passed, and Ryan was waiting for the return of Edward and Harrington, who were going to the Andorra Kingdom. There were some discrepancies with the agreed return date, which was nothing more than some delays on the road, which made Ryan misjudge some things. For example, the stacking of generations of food puts more pressure on the carriage than iron weapons and armor. In many places, the knights need to take action in person to pull and push forward in front and behind. In this world where many places are in the undeveloped stage, extraordinary power can produce productivity that transcends the times. After receiving the returnees, Ryan returned to the castle with the letters sent back by the cat assassins in Appia. It is not Archduke McReynolds who is in collusion with the Holy See, but the Andorra royal family. Ryan was a little shocked. To be honest, this answer was beyond his expectations. In the southern lands, all the kingdoms have seen how powerful the Columbus royal family is after theocracy was expelled and the royal power and theocracy were combined. No ruler would not envy such power as Columbus. After the lessons learned from the past, these royal families are the biggest enemies of the Holy See in secret. But unexpectedly, in the Andorra Kingdom, it was the royal family that took the lead in deepening ties with the Holy See. Let a super legion, or the 5th Dragon Legion, one of the 10 super legions of the Holy See, be stationed on the land of the kingdom. Has the struggle within the Andorra Kingdom reached this level? Chapter 231 The Marquis's Origin. Ryan knew that in the south of the Andorra Kingdom, the army of Grand Duke McReynolds had already fought a war with the armies led by the nobles. Although the scale was not particularly large, it also made many nobles nervous. This was the first time that Grand Duke MacReynolds publicly denied the order of King Andorra. Although everyone was unwilling to accept the king's selling of the kingdom's land, the fierce reaction of the Grand Duke still shocked and silenced many nobles. They didn't know which side to stand on. Logically speaking, they were loyal to the royal family and were the king's biggest supporters. From this silence, Ryan saw the weakness of the Andorra royal family. If it weren't for the weakness of the royal family, how could those nobles remain silent? I'm afraid they would have jumped up and angrily denounced Grand Duke MacReynolds' disloyalty. But now no noble has spoken up to discuss the issue of whether the Grand Duke is loyal or not. This is the biggest problem. The old king should be very angry, right? Ryan thought as he looked at the letters one by one. He, a baron in the northern border of the empire, could see the unrest in the kingdom through these letters. How could King Andorra, who was deeply involved in it, not feel it? However, this Baron Huffman is quite interesting. Ryan couldn't help laughing as he looked at the letters sent back by Appia. Two-faced? Playing both sides? These are not accurate, because Baron Huffman is a nobleman. No matter what choice he makes, he will not fall into a desperate situation. He has a lot of escape routes, so these relationships with various parties will become his help. His knowledge and circle will jump out of the circle that can be determined by the title of Baron. This is a talent, Ryan thought. Among the nobles with fiefs, those who have the courage and boldness to do these things have already surpassed 90% of the nobles. This has nothing to do with Ryan, so he just put this more precious letter away separately. Maybe it will be useful in the future. Perhaps, if I prepare more trump cards, I can also make some money from the War of the Andorra Kingdom. Ryan's eyes were thoughtful. From the current point of view, the contradictions within the Andorra Kingdom have become irreconcilable. Either the Grand Duke gave up the future and foundation of his territory, or the old but lion-like king lowered his noble head. Both answers are impossible. The relationship between the nobles and the king is complicated. It is not the relationship between the king and the ministers at all, but the difference between the monarch and the princes. Grand Duke MacReynolds will never give up the Griffin Mountains, and the king will not bow his head to let all the nobles see the end of the royal family. There is a very critical problem in this. There is no one in the royal family. Ryan saw a very critical message from the letters. The weakness of the Andorra royal family is not only reflected in the extraordinary and the army. There is also the royal family itself. There are no capable people in the next generation. No, it should not be about ability, because among the king's heirs, there is not a single capable prince. The descendants of the mighty lion, a group of princes turned out to be hyenas? Ryan didn't know what those princes had done to make these nobles generally believe that there was no consensus that the royal family had no next generation. The royal family does not have its own legend now, and it seems that the next generation will not have one either, and by the time the next generation comes, it will be at least several decades later. Decades are long and terrifying. Without the ability to be useful, and without the absolute extraordinary power to suppress, Ryan can see that the Andorra Kingdom will be in chaos in the future. It's no wonder that the old king wanted to do something while he was still alive. The aging lion set his sights on the griffin. Since the strength of the royal family cannot be improved, the strength of other nobles in the kingdom will be weakened to achieve a new balance. This is a common method used by rulers. Declining ruling power? Then let the resistance also decline in proportion. This old guy is not simple either. In Ryan's view, Andorra, the aging lion, is very smart. He betrayed the Griffin Mountains, or the Grand Duke of Griffin agreed, which severely damaged his foundation and made it difficult for him to resist the royal family in the future. If they disagree, a war will break out with several noble lords in the south. Once the war starts, there will be a lot of gold. Regardless of the outcome, the power of the Grand Duke MacReynolds family will decline a lot, and it is likely that they will not recover to their peak in the next few decades. Naturally, there will be no possibility of rebellion against the royal family. This is the case with the most powerful noble, and there is no need to talk about other nobles in the kingdom. The Andorra Kingdom will spend an era in this balance in peace. As for the future? The old king obviously can't see that far. In short, the only price of this matter is the reduction of the kingdom's national strength. So, for various reasons, the Holy See appeared. If the kingdom's national strength is reduced, then let the extraordinary power of the Holy See make up for it and ensure the inheritance of the kingdom. As for why it is the Holy See instead of the Empire, this is obvious. The Empire will annex their land and destroy the kingdom, but the Holy See will not. In any case, Ryan saw that the egg of the Andorra kingdom was full of cracks, and he didn't mind taking a bite. In the next few days, Ryan received urgings from some nobles, but he was still not in a hurry. However, during this process, he received a response from the Clayton family in the south. A team has arrived at the Wing Canyon and is about to enter the North Wind province. They are from the earldom of Clayton. It seems that the letter is still fruitful. Ryan is short of talents, and he has to admit that in this world, in this era, the probability of talents being born in aristocratic families is terribly high, because it is almost impossible for civilians to have talents. Let those who have been serfs for generations have the talent for management? Is it possible? Let a natural knight be born among those civilians who are not well-fed, warm, and sleep? Do you really think that blood and physique appear out of thin air? Ryan wrote a letter to the earldom of Clayton before, hoping to recruit some talents in various aspects in the earldom. Now it seems that his father, the earl, is still very powerful. Go down the mountain and clean up some houses for those people. After Ryan gave instructions, he ordered his female official to deal with the matter. About 5 days later, Ryan met a team of 130 people from the earldom of Clayton. Not all of them were needed by Ryan, and about 60% were the families of his followers. The frozen territory welcomes you. Ryan accepted the loyalty of everyone on the Rhinoceros Horn Mountain. From now on, his will is the goal these people follow. All of a sudden, the huge manpower pressure of Ryan's frozen territory was relieved. At the same time, these people also brought intelligence about the Clayton family, which was news that Earl Winter could not get from the south. The mother of the Marquess of the North Wind is the daughter of the Grand Duke Myers family. Chapter 232 The world has changed secretly and the dragon from the south. The Marquess of Bifang was born in the royal family, and his mother was a member of the family of Grand Duke Myers. This result surprised Ryan, but he soon understood the political significance behind it. The royal family began to show goodwill to the Myers family. Sure enough, when the war came, the royal family also needed the power of many nobles in the empire. The strength of the 4 Grand Dukes of the empire is unquestionable. 30 years ago, Grand Duke Myers conquered the Bifang province, and his overwhelming credit was replaced by a basket of pioneering orders. 30 years later, Ryan saw that Grand Duke Myers still had not given up, and the empire and the royal family began to compromise with the Grand Duke. The compromise was the political struggle 30 years ago. At this moment, Ryan was completely stagnant. He once thought that as a traverser, with a golden finger, he thought that he could see higher and farther than the natives of this world, but now he understood. Without corresponding cognition and insight, the advantages brought by history and world environment will not exceed others by much. He had never thought that the political struggle 30 years ago would last for decades, and it would continue as it seemed. 30 years ago, Grand Duke Myers won a crushing victory in the war, but was defeated miserably in politics. This was a fact that others could see during the 30 years ago. But that was not how the Grand Duke saw it. A political struggle lasted for 30 years? In his eyes, it had never ended. In front of the Grand Duke, 30 years was not a long time, and the outcome of the political struggle was still unknown. Yes, that's it. Ryan woke up. His pupils couldn't help but dilate. He had always subconsciously ignored one thing. That was the other blessing that the extraordinary, the extremely powerful extraordinary could bring. Lifespan for a civilian who can only live 40 or 50 years, 3 to 5 years is a huge change in his life, but what about the extraordinary life? How could the powerful legendary existences have a lifespan that the mudlegs could not compare to? Extending the political struggle for 30 years would not seem so scary. The most important thing is that since the war between the gods and spirits, mortals have been stealing the essence of the gods. As far as Ryan knows, the gods have eternal life. Then for the same reason, for the Clayton family, the merit of going deep into the north to solve the mammoth tribe was replaced by the Baron title. In fact, it is not the end of politics, but the beginning. The political struggle will not end with my title, but in the constant confrontation, each side has the upper hand, and has compromised with each other. After many years of changes, it finally settled. At present, it seems that the dust is still floating and has never fallen to the ground. Everything is still going on. No wonder Grand Duke Myers had no temper at all 30 years ago, and Earl Clayton was the same, making outsiders think that their family is so big and powerful that they don't care about the trivial merits. Now think about it, it is impossible not to care, but their anger has not erupted, because the disputes about those merits have not yet ended. The result is not yet, How can the temper of the great nobles be so casual? The same is true for the Andorra kingdom. The Grand Duke MacReynolds, with the title of Wind Emperor and the temper of Mad Emperor, behaves like a spring breeze. How could it be possible, even though the king is standing opposite him? It's just that the ending is not clear yet, which is not enough to arouse their anger. Before the pan-dimensional war of the gods, the lifespan of legends should not be long, but after the pan-dimensional war of the gods, some things happened, which I am not qualified to know now. It is very likely related to lifespan. The nobles before the war did not live long, and inheritance and replacement were relatively frequent, but after the war, the number of things like the 100-year prince will not be less. In this case, the undercurrent under the aristocratic system is even greater than I imagined. Ryan understood many things at this moment. The contradictions after the pan-dimensional war of the gods did not die down because of the hard-won peace. On the contrary, they became more secretive and more frightening. Forget it, don't think about it for now. The Marquess of the North Wind must be a member of the royal family, and in addition, he will be close to the Grand Duke Myers family, but he came to the North Wind province. It's not a good thing for all the nobles in this land. Ryan could almost imagine Earl Winter's angry behavior after hearing the news. First of all, the position of governor of the North Wind province could not belong to Earl Winter. Secondly, according to the news from the Clayton family, among the other worlds controlled by the nobles in the empire, this world is relatively powerful and has not been too eroded by the winter. First, it was confirmed that there must be a cold northern border in that undeveloped other world, and then it was stated that even so, the intact part of that other world was also huge and had countless resources. And now? The area of 100 miles around Lion Mountain has become the land of the Marquess, and he will occupy it as the highest pioneer of light. He also occupies the portal to the other plane on the mountain. Those who want to share a piece of the pie suddenly have one more Marquess, a new governor of the North Wind, and a member of the royal family. How could this not make the nobles of the North Wind province anxious? At this moment, they and the Marquess were natural enemies of interest. Yes, the Empire did lose the figures of the victors of the war because the North Wind province concealed the arrival of the Holy Heavenly Knights and the Daemon Legendary Knights at the first time. The victory belongs to the North Wind province itself. But now a stumbling block is coming to reap the fruits of victory in the war. Not counting the portal to the other plane, a lot of land in the radius of 100 miles has already been divided up by the nobles of the North Wind province. Ryan has several places where he grows extraordinary magic crops, but they are all within that range. Has the political struggle within the Empire begun to spread to the North Wind province? Ryan suddenly laughed. It seems that even the bigwigs of the Empire are not very clear about what the real rules are in this land. Ryan was assassinated on his way to take office. A Viscount in Lindu County killed another Viscount on the battlefield. The heir of the Viscount died at the hands of a cat assassin. Count Winter and Count Soren, as great nobles and governors, charged at the front line of the fight with the Thunder Giant. The nobles of the Northern Wind province fought against the nobles, never with their mouths, but with their feet. It is impossible to give up the land measured by legs. Chapter 233 Entering the Different Dimension Again. Ryan found Rosen, the knight who followed him to the frozen land territory. Now he is the chief sheriff of this territory. His loyalty to Ryan is beyond doubt. In the past, no one in the North Wind province would care about ordinary people in the territory, but if the Marquess of the North Wind comes, he may choose to deal with those serfs and civilians in order to find out our strength. You arrange the patrol of the militia. I don't want anyone outside the frozen land territory to appear secretly in my territory. Also, you and Beard have agreed that when other noble teams come here, arrange people to follow them to ensure that they don't say anything more to the people in the territory. Follow your will. Rosen's eyes were burning, and he said, your people will always be loyal to you, whether they are knights or slaves. After Rosen left, Ryan's face was no longer solemn. This is just an insurance to prevent the Marquess of the North Wind from finding out the truth about Ryan's rise. But if he is really discovered, Ryan will not be too nervous. After all, the continent of Exner has completely died and buried in the cold winter. Even he himself cannot open the plane portal to that world. As for the wild world of Svidiferi, it is strictly controlled to enter and exit, and only a few people in the territory know about it. There are not many people on the Svidiferi plains, only more than 1,000 people. Now more than 90% of the people still live in it, feeding horses and growing fruits, and basically do not appear in the frozen land. Therefore, Ryan was aware of the discovery of part of the truth of the frozen land. He, a baron, suddenly became powerful, and other nobles must be curious. In addition, there are tens of thousands of people from Exner in the frozen land, and it is only a matter of time before it is exposed. It is already very good for those nobles to find this out, and they will think that they have discovered the truth of the frozen land. In the end, they will know that the world has perished, and here, it is the bait thrown by Ryan. When the nobles bite the bait, they will find out the secret of Baron Ryan, and then they will understand that the bait is not a feast, but feces. All the news is true, without fraud. Ryan took out 80% of the truth, making other nobles think that this is all, and finally helped Ryan conceal the remaining 20% of the secret. Of course, even if it is that 80%, the later it is discovered, the better. It's time to go to Thundercloud County, Ryan sighed. Those nobles were very anxious after knowing about the Marquess of the North Wind, so he was also natural. The arrival of the Marquess will inevitably affect the interests of everyone, but now there is no better way except to share a large sum before the other party comes. Ryan also thought so. Before the arrival of the Marquess of the North Wind, he should get as many benefits as possible from the other dimensional world. So, at noon, Ryan took 300 knight attendants and left the frozen Earth territory again and headed towards Thundercloud County. This time, the speed was much faster, not only because there was no encumbrance, but also because everyone rode war horses, which came from the frozen Earth territory's own war horses. Each war horse will be the best partner of these knights in the future. Just like the Griffin Knights in the Andorra Kingdom, they personally participated in the process of breeding war horses. In just 2 days, when dawn jumped out of the horizon, Ryan had already reached the foot of Thundercloud Mountain. He looked at the golden farmland around him and found that the nobles had not destroyed it. This is certain. Any noble would treasure the land that can grow food. This is why Ryan was able to repel Viscount Hug in Tishan County. But here, Ryan also saw some news. That is, the nobles of the North Wind province might join hands to suppress the Marquess. The best land within 100 miles was allocated to the Marquess. With this interest involved, the nobles certainly could not give it up. Going up the mountain and entering the castle, many nobles gathered here. They were also trying to develop the alternate dimension world. Baron Ryan, you are finally here. A noble looked at Ryan with surprise, as if he had found the backbone. Baron Kobo, good morning. Ryan was in good etiquette and had met many nobles, including Viscount Hogg. Because of the appearance of the Marquess, the Viscount was accepted by the nobles of the North Wind province again. After all, the birth of the Marquess of the North Wind caused the first loss to the royal son-in-law, Viscount Hogg. Logically speaking, Viscount Hogg should stand on the side of the Marquess, but this would inevitably shake Viscount Hogg's interests, and he would have to share some of the right to speak. However, because Viscount Hogg had already lost everything in the war, there was no extra interest to give away. So after the discussion, Viscount Hogg and the nobles of the North Wind province became close again. Baron Ryan, since you are here, can we hurry up? A noble said that in the original decision, Ryan was the commander to develop the alternate world. Although they had tried to develop it themselves many times before Ryan came, the results made them ignore the previous ones and choose to wait for Ryan to come. My army still needs to rest, so let's start tomorrow. After Ryan finished speaking, these nobles were still a little anxious, because they had been waiting for a long time. But Ryan said so, and the nobles could only express regret. Then Ryan found that most of these nobles left that afternoon. They left their own people to assist Ryan, but they had to return to the territory. This was not surprising. They just wanted the benefits of the alternate dimension, but they had never thought of personally taking risks to enter another world where they might die. That alternate dimension world would not care about the rule that nobles could not be killed. The nobles who stayed here were also a group of idle people with nothing to do. They were curious and would not enter it. Ryan looked at Baron Enzo of Lingdu County, and the other party said that he would go together. If I die, my son will become the new Baron Enzo. This baron is more open-minded than all the nobles, which is why Ryan attaches importance to him. As for the other nobles of Lingdu County who came here several days in advance, they also left on the same day. They came here without saying hello to Ryan, which was a test of Baron Ryan, who had absolute say in Lingdu County. Of course, they dare not face it now. To put it bluntly, the war is over, and Baron Ryan's status in Lingdu County has declined. This is how it is among the nobles. When they need you, you can say and do whatever you want. When the war is over, the nobles will have their own plans. This is normal. Ryan did not care about the nobles' ideas. If he wanted to have the absolute right to speak in Lingdu County, he needed to proceed from the three aspects of economy, politics and military. He is still in the process. Early the next morning, Ryan led 5,000 soldiers and crossed the plain gate again. Chapter 234 Green Lion Tribe. Ryan was accompanied by Baron Enzo and two powerful Sky Knights. Hala Winter from the Earldom of Winter, and Knight Badley from the Earldom of Solon. The presence of these two Sky Knights gave Ryan a great sense of security, but they were also the only fighting force sent by the two earls. They only provided the fighting power of Sky Knights, but they would enjoy the most profits in this world. In addition to these two, there were more than a dozen gold knights and hundreds of silver knights following behind, who came from various noble territories. It seems that the nobles did not gain nothing after exploring in advance, Ryan said with a smile, and Baron Enzo next to him didn't know if he was mocking. Only by coming in personally, you will know that the advantage of numbers is gone in this mountainous country, and only strong individuals can guarantee safety and interests. Therefore, Ryan didn't need to say much, pointing to the fact that there were a large number of knights in the pioneering army. Earl Weiss has been developing this world for nearly 5 years, so there are probably no indigenous tribes around us, and large beasts are unlikely to exist, but to be on the safe side, Ryan looked at Hora and said, "Lord Hora, please take a look in the sky." Okay, Sky Knights can't float in the sky for a long time, but Hora Knights have flying wolves as mounts. In this way, Ryan has a pair of eyes in the sky, and in this dense forest world, the advantage is suddenly increased. There is a camp built by Earl Weiss 30 miles away from the entrance and exit. It is not a problem to station 3,000 or 4,000 soldiers. Ryan left 1,000 soldiers stationed at the entrance and took the remaining 4,000 soldiers to continue to go deeper, and will arrive at the front camp before this evening. Earl Weiss also knows how to build roads, but it is possible that the road was built little by little over several years. Anyway, it is cheaper for them now. Otherwise, if they really crossed the mountains and ridges, Ryan dare not guarantee that he can walk to the camp 30 miles away in one day. Along the way, thousands of powerful warriors made the most powerful beasts in the forest dare not approach easily, and could only watch this terrible team disappear from sight from afar. After arriving at the camp safely, Ryan's face turned ugly. The fences around the camp had been completely knocked down, and the houses collapsed. Obviously, this was not done by wild beasts. It was the natives. After they found that there were no soldiers stationed here, they secretly destroyed this place. The deep voice of Knight Badley next to him sounded under the heavy armor. Ryan guessed that the armor weighed several hundred pounds. The natives' methods are obviously not in place. Without a fire, the camp can be rebuilt quickly. Ryan waved his hand and asked the soldiers behind him to start rebuilding the camp here. As night fell, bonfires and torches illuminated the sky. Ryan also waited for the expected screams. The wailing of soldiers came from the forest, and the patrolling soldiers rushed over quickly, but only saved a few soldiers with scratched eyes. Although the natives here are not very smart, they are better at moving and fighting here than wild beasts. This is the answer to the failure of the nobles several times before. Ryan did not order a hunt, but strengthened the patrols in the dark. When the day came, he looked in the direction of Hora. The unicorn flying wolf under the ladder had a pair of terrifying eyes and looked in one direction. The natives did not know how to make detours. In the dark night, even the eyes of the Sky Knight could not see too far, but it was not a problem for the unicorn flying wolf. Observing in the dark, these flying wolves have an advantage over many monsters. To the east, there is a huge lake, Hora said. The natives thought they could hide in the dark, but they had already been exposed to their eyes. The actions at night were originally a hook for the natives, and now the fish has been hooked. If we find a native tribe, we can follow the clues and find all the natives. In the morning, the army set out and pressed towards the lake in the east. When the mighty army arrived at the native tribe, they found that the tribe had begun to use the tools they had robbed from Count Weiss before, and there should be things they got after dismantling the camp before. In short, they actually built fortifications, which surprised Ryan. These natives are really fast at using tools, but it's a pity that they would be better if they had better brains. A group of barbarians who have not embarked on the extraordinary path. What can we say? Hora sneered. If the command was not in Ryan's hands, he would have ordered the army to attack. But Ryan didn't. He let the army surround the native tribe. Although many natives had fled before they arrived, the rest were fearless warriors. They were not afraid of death and were ready to die with these invaders from another world. Ryan never thought of using killing as a means. War is always the last choice and the most extreme option in political struggles. Barbarians? Fearless? Hate them? Already determined to die? Ryan wanted them to live. He rode alone to 30 meters away from the fortifications, but before he could speak, a feather arrow had already shot at him. This is not surprising. The natives in the mountains and forests have to hunt to survive, and weapons such as bows and arrows are often more useful than melee weapons. Ryan did not move, but the warhorse Winter under him had already taken 2 steps back, and these 2 steps were just where the arrow fell. The quality of the bow and arrow is not good enough, and the accuracy is a bit lacking. Ryan thought so, and the soldiers behind him were already boiling with anger, but Ryan still raised his hand to make them quiet. He looked at a tall native on the fortifications. The other party was wearing animal skins. The arrow came from the other party, and it seemed that he was the leader of this native tribe. "Are you afraid of death? I have 10,000 soldiers behind me. I only need a charge to kill you and turn your tribe into ruins," Ryan said loudly, and the natives roared even more angrily after hearing it. "The Great Blue Lion tribe is not afraid of death. You damned demons from another world will eventually be devoured by the gods. We are not afraid of war. We will kill you," Ryan nodded after listening. "It seems that you have learned our way of speaking during the collision with Count Weiss's army," Ryan suddenly laughed. "You are not afraid of death, but aren't you worried about the death of the old, the weak, the women and the children in your tribe? Do you know what kind of treatment they will receive if we capture them in the name of war? Oh, maybe they are no longer in your tribe, so you are not afraid. Then where are they? Are they in other tribes? But in that case, your sons will be someone else's sons in the future, and your women will become someone else's women and give birth to sons for other tribes. Your sons will no longer remember you, and your women will act coquettishly to please the men of other tribes. Oh, maybe they didn't go to other tribes, but hid in places we can't find them. We can't find them. Then can they find the people from other tribes? They found you, but you are all dead." Then, before Ryan finished speaking, the natives on the wooden fence had turned pale and were holding their weapons tightly. Chapter 235. A transaction. "Devils, I won't let you succeed," the strong native man shouted and continued to shoot arrows, but Ryan remained unmoved. The horse under him was able to dodge such arrows. "Yet, the relationship between your tribes must not be so good, right? The winter in the north is getting closer and closer to the area where you live. The land between tribes is no longer wide. Sometimes in order to chase prey, you will run into the territory of other tribes, right? Under such circumstances, how can there not be conflicts and wars? Our arrival has stopped the war for you, but if there is a chance, the men of those tribes will definitely not mind enjoying your women and using your sons as slaves. Let your women give birth to their sons, and then whose sons will use your sons. Hide. To be honest, if you hide, I won't look for you, because I can't find it, but you know the answer to what I said just now. If we outsiders can't find it, what about other natives of this world? Can they find it? If they find it, how will they treat the wealth that belongs to you? Your mother may have to come out to walk around. Your father should be killed by them, or he may be killed here by us. You are dead, but your relatives are still alive. Maybe they are more painful to be alive than you are to be dead. Well, it's hard to say. What if?" Ryan's words began to be ambiguous, but every word he said would arouse countless fantasies of these native warriors. Often, the worst thoughts in their hearts are the most devastating things. "You should be able to see that my army does not have the flags of the enemies you encountered before. That noble likes to use war to solve problems, but I don't want too many warriors to die, whether you're warriors or the warriors behind me. Unfortunately, if I can only kill you, I can only pay a small price." Ryan kept shaking his head, and in front of him, the natives no longer shot arrows, and they held their weapons tightly. If they stood any longer, they would probably use up their own physical strength. The rhythm of their breathing was already in chaos, and the densely packed soldiers outside made their panic turn into despair. Ryan struck while the iron was hot and gave these brainless barbarians a step. "How about this? On behalf of all the nobles behind me, I will make a deal with you. I promise that no soldier will break into your tribe or kill your people, but as a traitor, you need to help us hunt the wild beasts in the mountains and forests. As long as I am alive, this deal will be fully effective." Ryan took out the parchment he had prepared long ago. The knight attendant behind him pulled out a yellow cow. Ryan cut it with a sword, and the blood of the yellow cow splashed on the parchment. "This is your tradition, so let's conclude the contract in this way. Agree, Ryan said loudly, the knight's sword in his hand flashing with a cold light. As long as the natives continue to refuse, the army behind them will break through this defense that does not seem to be strong enough. We agree. As if something beloved was parting with him, the native strongman hunched over a lot and asked the warriors to put down their weapons. Ryan turned around and thought he would see a group of shocked and worshipful eyes, but he saw a group of people looking at ghosts, and their feet stepped back together. What the hell? Ryan quickly realized that the people in this world were too simple. Even if the nobles fought each other, they would not really do anything strange, not to mention that these were knights who fulfilled the spirit of chivalry. The strongest fortress is often breached from the inside, and this truth has not yet been widely recognized. Baron Ryan, are we winning? Baron Enzo was still a little unbelievable, looking at the native warriors who had slowly opened the door and walked out dejectedly. There were examples of defeating the enemy without fighting in the past, but that was between the nobles, because the exchange of interests and compromise calmed the war. And there were very few examples. The nobles were gentlemanly and primitive and savage at the same time, and liked blood and firefighting. Looking back at the native warriors who looked like dead people, Ryan blinked and said, "What are you doing? It's just a friendly transaction between us. We are equal. It's not that you surrendered or lost the war." After that, Ryan asked curiously, "Are you going out hunting today?" The natives tied their hands and feet, and the appearance of defeat and surrender made Ryan think that they looked like they had experienced a war. A group of native men blushed. They had great courage to suppress their inner shame, thinking that not dying in this war was a blasphemy against the gods. For this reason, the leading strongman has lost a lot of prestige. What's the matter with the other party's words now? I have surrendered, and you say we haven't lost? I don't understand. A group of strong men broke their bodies that they had finally managed to hold on at this moment, and they were in a hurry, wishing that an ant nest would appear on the ground so that they could count the number of ants in it. The leading man blushed and spoke incoherently, and it happened that Ryan's voice came again at this time. Are you going to pick up your relatives hiding in the mountains? Relatives? Oh, yes, we are going to pick them up. Ryan smiled and nodded, turned his head and looked at the soldiers behind him. Why are you still standing there? Make way for our friends. After Ryan finished speaking, the soldiers crowded together, and soon a road was squeezed out. A group of native barbarians wearing animal skins trembled as they passed through the majestic military formation, and then fled into the forest. After they left, Baron Enzo came to Ryan and whispered, "Do you want to wait for them to bring everyone back and then capture them together?" Ryan glanced at the Baron. This idea was wrong. How is it possible? I am a nobleman and will not use my reputation to frame these natives. I said it was a deal, and it is a deal. It is a deal between all of us nobles and these natives, Ryan said, his eyes meaningful. He did not do this to get along with the natives in harmony. He did it to deal with the upcoming Marquess of the North Wind. Chapter 236, Gods and Messengers. Catch them. A group of fully armed soldiers tied up the native warriors who were suppressed on the ground in a few seconds. At this moment, these natives were staring at the natives of the Blue Lion tribe who were standing on the other side and ignored by the soldiers with anger and hatred. Damn Blue Lion tribe, you actually betrayed the gods. You will be devoured by the gods and you will die in the most cruel way. They struggled frantically and bit the soldiers with their teeth, but soon the cloth strips were stuffed into their mouths and tied behind their heads. These natives could only be extremely angry and hostile to the natives of the Blue Lion tribe. Why are you staring at them like that? Our friends of the Blue Lion tribe, are here to save you. Look at what you look like now. What's the difference between you and wild beasts? You are human beings, and barbarians are also human beings. Ryan came to the front of these tied natives, waved his hand, and asked the soldiers to lock up all the natives in their own tribe. Because the natives of the Blue Lion tribe led the way, none of the Black Bear tribe escaped and were all captured. Salt, clothes, tools and so on will be delivered to your tribe soon. I always remember that we are trading and friends. You did not surrender to us. Ryan turned to the native strongman named Cao and said. Cao asked Ryan with some worry, how will you deal with the Black Bear tribe? Will you kill them? Will you turn them into slaves? Although the Green Lion tribe and the Black Bear tribe have been enemies for many years, now facing these invaders from another world, they are the natives who naturally stand on the same line. I don't know yet. If these people you are talking about can be as smart as you and accept our conditions, then maybe I will let them go. Cao opened his eyes wide, seeming a little confused, but at this time Ryan had changed the subject. filling his limited brain capacity with other information. By the way, when I met you before, and now, I have heard about some gods. I thought the god you were talking about before was a green lion. The green lion is the messenger sent by our gods to our tribe? Cao touched his head and said, then pointed here. The black bear tribe also has a messenger, a huge black bear. When it stands up, it is taller than that stone, Cao said, pointing to a large stone about 7 or 8 meters long. Ryan's expression became serious. The gods actually sent messengers to you? Why didn't I see it? The native strong man in front of him touched his head awkwardly. We can't find it either. The messengers of the gods sometimes have to find food, and their hunting range is very wide. Ryan, the messenger you are talking about, isn't it a very powerful beast? It's not a beast. The messenger is very powerful. We offer sacrifices every year, so that it won't eat our people. The messenger of our green lion tribe is a green lion that can spit out flames. Every time we offer sacrifices, it will give us some flames. Those flames can be used 1, 2, 3, many times an alternate day and night. Ryan understood Cao's words and felt relieved. Ryan was a little shocked by what the other party said just now. He really thought that the gods of this world were still alive and still active. As a result, it seems now. Okay, you can go back. After the natives left, Baron Enzo came up. He should be talking about a magic beast, yet. Ryan nodded. The natives couldn't understand why the beast spit out flames, and they said it was the work of the gods, but in their opinion, it was just a magic beast. And most magic beasts are not stupid, so it's not surprising that they come to eat a meal offered by the natives for free every year. According to his description, the blue lion magic beast should be above the peak of the 2nd level, at least the 3rd level, and I don't know if there is a 4th level. The 4th level is equivalent to the Sky Knight. But soon, the eyes of the two barons became hot. Magic beasts are very valuable, especially if they can be tamed. Then it is not a problem that the value is 100 times more expensive than the dead magic beast. From this point of view, is the god they are talking about also a magical beast that is far superior to the blue lion or black bear, perhaps, comparable to a dragon? Don't worry, first deal with the natives here, and then go hunt for the specialties of this world. The more they understood, the more reluctant the two barons Ryan and Enzo were to give up the interests of this other dimensional world, and naturally, they also strengthened their minds to oppose the Marquis of the North Wind. Can these natives really be used to deal with the Marquis of the North Wind? Baron Enzo still didn't understand. Well, if it goes well, the Marquis of the North Wind will be unable to move here, Ryan said as he looked at this rough tribe. What does it mean to be successful? Wait and you will know. About 5 hours later, Ryan went to the place where the natives of the Black Bear tribe were imprisoned. He was also a little helpless. These natives were so energetic that he thought they would be silent in a while, but they scolded the Blue Lion tribe for 5 hours. No wonder the natives of the Blue Lion tribe ran so fast. I heard your name is Bear. Ryan came to the tribal leader. He was a very tall and strong man. Perhaps only a man of this physique could become the leader of a tribe. The same was true for the Green Lion tribe. Bear ignored Ryan. If he hadn't been thirsty, he would have continued to curse the Green Lion tribe. Okay, since we can't communicate, kill all the men and send the women to the Blue Lion tribe as gifts. Oh, by the way, this bear is said to have 4 wives. Give them all to me, and tell him to make sure these women have more children, and as for this bear's sons, tell me to let him know, and then let my sons use them as slaves, as friends. We still have to consider our friends more. How about? Baron Enzo next to him had already learned it, and said immediately, this bear has 2 younger sisters and an old mother. How about? It's not good to be too old, and we are nobles after all, but I have a father with a broken leg, who is about the same age. With these women, the Blue Lion tribe should be much stronger in a few decades. What a pity, Ryan sighed, and Baron Enzo's doubts were just right. What's wrong? I was thinking about making the Black Bear tribe like the Blue Lion tribe, so that we can hunt more beasts in this world. Now it seems that this is the only way to deal with it. After saying that, Ryan walked out without looking back. Baron Enzo hesitated and paused 3 times. Fortunately, the native barbarian's brain was not very good. The struggling bear quickly used his tongue to push open the sackcloth like the previous 5 hours and shouted. Wait a minute, don't leave yet. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 237, Humble Bear. Enzo learns the essence. Don't leave yet. Frowning and turning around, Ryan looked at the soldiers around him angrily. What's going on? How can he still yell? Cut off his tongue and keep him alive. When you send him to the Blue Lion tribe, let him stand by Sio's bed and watch? No, I agree with you. I am also willing to be friends with you like the Blue Lion tribe. Shang became anxious, fearing that the soldiers around him would rush up and stab him. Of course, he couldn't figure it out, because these soldiers could hold back for 5 hours. Oh, is that so? Yes, don't give my woman to Cio, and don't let my woman give birth to a son. It's hard to say. After all, Cio is my friend, and there are not many people in your world who can be friends with me. I do. Shang shouted, and the natives next to him immediately scolded him. Bear, you traitor, you betrayed us, you betrayed the gods. Shang immediately turned his head and hit the other person with his head, making him dizzy. Wolf, what are you calling? If we die, your wife will be sent to the sickle of the Blue Lion tribe. He has been missing your wife for a long time, as well as your mother. The Blue Lion tribe and the Black Bear tribe are feuding for generations, and their hunting ranges overlap, so after a few visits, everyone is familiar with each other. I don't know if it was because he was hit stupidly, or because he heard the disastrous consequences that the bear said. The native was silent, and the other natives also widened their eyes and sweated. Friends? You won't regret it, right? Ryan asked hesitantly. No, the people of the Black Bear tribe are the most trustworthy. The bear said it very seriously, as if there is no such thing as regretting something when you say it. That's fine, but as a friend, is it okay for your tribe to give me something? What do you want? The bear asked vigilantly. He was afraid that Ryan would take his wife to the Blue Lion tribe as a gift. It's all the little things from your tribe, those animal skins and stuff, and some flowers and plants, the kind that glow, and some bones. It looks like they should be the bones of some wild animals. I like to collect these things. Okay, after hesitating, Shang agreed. In the past, after losing a fight with the Green Lion tribe, he had to give away a lot of things, including women. Although he felt a little distressed, he had nothing else to give away, except his women. Since we are friends, I will also give you some spears and tools. You won't refuse it, right? Got it. Take whatever you want. Shang was halfway through his words, and his eyes suddenly opened wide. You want to give us something? Of course, aren't we friends? You give me some gifts, and I will give you some gifts. Is that okay? No problem. A few minutes later, the untied Shang stood beside Ryan. His tall body of 2 meters and 5 meters was hunched over at this moment, as tall as Ryan. His face was full of smiles, and he happily touched the exquisite spear in his hand. This was much better than the crude things made by their tribe. He tried it and broke his previous weapon in one go. How is it? Do you still like it? Ryan asked. I like it. The bear was extremely happy, and then looked at Ryan and said, or, you can take some more things away. No, it's enough, but the next time I come, if you can hunt more beasts, I will trade with you with other things. But you also know that there are many nobles among us, and they may not be as easy to talk to as me. The bear patted his chest and said loudly, don't worry, my people will not provoke you. Only if you come, I will give you things. If others come, they are not my friends. Ryan nodded. I hope you can do what you say. People of the Black Bear tribe never betray their friends. Ryan left the Black Bear tribe with his army. On the way, Baron Enzo met with several soldiers and then came to Ryan. Lord Hora and his men have hunted a lot of prey, all of which are 5-meter tall black bulls. I heard that they are going to be sent back to the earldom for breeding. The beasts in this world are different from ordinary beasts. Although they don't have much wisdom, their blood is very powerful. My wizard told me that they may have been bathed in divinity. No surprise, Ryan was not surprised by this. Earl Weiss wasted divinity so much, which means that there are actually a lot of divinities scattered in this world. Even if they are covered with dust and of low quality after being scattered, they are a great blessing for the beasts in this world. In a sense, all the beasts in this world are gods. Well, including these natives. Hearing what Ryan said, Baron Enzo couldn't help laughing. Do you think that if Marcus B. Fang heard you say this, would he be furious? Marcus B. Fang? Oh, it is said that he is a god. He will definitely not hear it. Baron Enzo turned his head away. I will definitely not tell you, but soon. Baron Enzo couldn't help but get anxious. If there really is divinity, then the black cattle that Lord Hora and his men found will surely bring huge profits after being domesticated. Are we really not going to do it? Why rush? This world is here, and the key is in our hands. As long as we control these indigenous tribes, will we still lack prey? As he spoke, Ryan picked up a huge antler bone next to him. How big a deer can grow such a big horn? Isn't this bigger than the cows you mentioned? This piece of antler is almost bigger than his. No one knows where the beasts here are better than these natives, not just the beasts, but also the magical beasts. Magic beasts bathed in divinity. If we solve the natives, no one can compete with us. If we don't go to them to share some benefits with us now, then they can't ask us to share them later. Isn't this the case for nobles among nobles? Baron Enzo's eyes lit up. Yet, we didn't ask Lord Hora for the black bull, so they can't ask us for prey then. Maybe we can sell things to them and let them buy them. Ryan looked at Enzo, and he felt that this guy looked a bit like a deity. Viscount Dragon wouldn't just teach his eldest son and let the other sons run wild, right? That Viscount was already dead, and Ryan couldn't ask about it, so he could only pretend he didn't see it. Chapter 238 Jade and Gold. Standing on the top of the mountain, looking at the rushing river, Ryan finally understood why Count Weiss had not completely occupied this alien world for several years. Wanting to conceal is one aspect, but the real reason is that there are too many natives in this world. There are many powerful tribes like the Green Lion tribe and the Black Bear tribe. In the past month, Ryan has found 17 or 18 native tribes, and the total population has exceeded 20,000. After such a long time, Ryan finally saw the northern border of the alien world. Like many other plains, the tall and majestic mountains blocked the most severe winter, so that the wind and snow could not cover the land in the south. The reason why there are large areas in this world that have never been covered by wind and snow is also because the country of mountains and forests has too many mountains, and the winter is unable to continue to move south. Of course, Ryan guessed that there is also a divine role in it, which can ensure the activity of magic factors. The closer to the north, the lower the activity of the magic factor. If there is a magician like Luna in the wind and snow, it may be difficult to break through. Only in the mountains and forests in the south that have never been covered by wind and snow can life such as magic beasts be born. This last place of hope should also be the self-rescue method of the gods of this world, but it seems that they are coming faster than the gods. Let's go. We should go back. 3 days later, Ryan returned to the Black Bear tribe. The chief of the tribe, Bear, saw Ryan coming and laughed and asked people to pull out 7 or 8 3-meter-high forest deer. In addition, there were more than a dozen small deer. My friend, the Baron, the Black Bear tribe has prepared gifts for you. Bear learned the way of speaking of Ryan and others, and Ryan couldn't help laughing when he saw the forest deer. Along the way, he received quite a few gifts. Bear, I like this gift very much. Enzo next to him almost stared at the tall forest deer. Leading these forest deer, Ryan came to the Green Lion tribe again. As expected, the Green Lion tribe gave him the biggest surprise. Baron, this is the prey that our tribe hunted for a long time. We also lost 3 of our bravest warriors. Looking at the beast in the cage, Ryan was also happy, because it was a huddled black bear. Not only the black bear, but also a group of goats next to it. According to Xiao, they found the black bear and wanted to catch the goats to eat, and then they were caught in one fell swoop. Compared with the black bear, Ryan was happier about these goats. There was only one black bear, but goats could be bred to form sustainable wealth. Are there many goats like this? Hearing Ryan's words, Xiao was a little confused as to why he didn't look at the black bear but asked about these goats that could only eat grass, but he still said, they live in groups. The group we found only has dozens of them, but there should be others over there. There are many such grass-eating sheep there. Ryan felt that these natives still had a lot of words to learn, but he still patiently arranged a few attendants. Take them there. If there are many such goats in the place you mentioned, I can regard it as a big deal. A big deal is something that the natives can understand. It is equivalent to a comprehensive update of the entire tribe. Just like the tools and food that Ryan brought before. They were considered a big deal with Ryan. Baron, we will definitely help you find these goats. On the way back, the army suddenly had many more beasts and animal skins, as well as Baron Ryan's own collection, the bones of those beasts. This time, we should be able to beat them, right? Baron Enzo was a little excited. They didn't do anything, and those tribes had already rushed to send them a lot of prey. The animal skins that had been preserved for decades also fell into Ryan's hands. This was cleaner than looting. And there were no casualties at all. At most, there were only accidents during the army's march. This is not just our stuff. It will be distributed to those nobles. The soldiers behind Ryan were from many nobles. Naturally, his harvest should also be counted as part of them. The key is that even without these soldiers, Ryan would give the nobles a share. Because when these gifts are given, the contract will also be delivered to the hands of those nobles. Don't forget that the deal between Ryan and the indigenous tribes was reached in the name of all the nobles. No matter what the indigenous people think, no noble of the North Wind Province can escape from Ryan. So much more to be distributed. Baron Enzo looked at the proportions that Ryan had divided, and his expression was very reluctant. They have gained too much? There are more than 7,000 sets of exquisite animal skins stored by the dozen tribes in the past few decades. Each set sold to the chambers of commerce can earn a dozen to hundreds of gold coins, and most of them are worth dozens of gold coins. The indigenous people don't know how to maintain it, and the means of skinning are also very rough. Even so, it has such a huge value, but Ryan actually wants to give away 80%, and both earls have a share. There are also prey. The black bear will be given to Viscount Walter of Tishan County. Among the remaining prey, Ryan himself only kept those goats and forest deer. Why are you in such a hurry? I've given you quite a lot. Ryan laughed, then played with a red stone in his hand and said playfully, the real value of this world is not just these prey. Enzo looked at the stone in Ryan's hand, and then gradually opened his eyes. Amber jade. The nobles of the Empire don't play with jade, not because they don't like it, but because jade is often an item in the magic circle. The most common jade is a magical material or a medium for wizards, while the price of high-grade jade is very high. Because each type of high-grade jade has a unique function, it is a priceless treasure for those who need it, and it is only a collection for those who don't need it. It's not just this thing. Ryan took out another rough stone, and the power of the Silver Knight kept tightening, and the stone broke inch by inch, revealing a little bit of golden sand in it. Enzo's eyes opened as wide as possible, but at this moment he stopped shouting and stared at the gold in Ryan's hand. After a long time, he looked up and saw Ryan's meaningful smile. You don't want to take it all for yourself, do you? How is that possible? After Ryan finished speaking, Baron Enzo seemed to be relieved, but the next moment he heard Ryan continue to say, don't we still have you? Chapter 239, Big Battle. On Thundercloud Mountain, the nobles who had received the news gathered again. They were of course very enthusiastic, because soon, they might not be so free to come here again. My Lord Viscount, this is a gift for you. Your army played a huge role in the development of the other world. Without them, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to reach a deal with those natives. What Count Weiss has not completed in 5 years, we were able to resolve so quickly, all thanks to the support of your army. Say hello to the Earl for me. This is the skin of a giant python shed by the rock snake tribe, given to the Earl. It looks like it came from a powerful magical beast. Viscount Landis' territory is getting better and better. If these animal skins can be sold to the south, perhaps it can ease the pressure on the Viscount in this regard. Oh yes, this is a contract between us and the natives. You must keep it. With this thing, the natives will not attack your army in the other world. The environment of the mountains and forests is complex. If there are fewer people, they will get lost. Many times we still need these natives to help us find the way. Ryan worked tirelessly to deal with the nobles. Before long, 80% of the huge wealth he brought back was lost. Even if you extend your hand, you should not hide a smiling person. Moreover, under Ryan's smile, a large amount of wealth was allocated to these nobles. Therefore, the nobles certainly supported Ryan's decision. What's more, some even came up to ask when the next large-scale development would be. It is difficult for a noble to earn a lot of wealth in the other plane with the strength of a single noble. The Viscount does not have such great ability, but following Ryan, they only need to send a part of the soldiers to reap huge benefits. This may be a bit difficult. As you know, the Marcus is coming. We developed the other plane world alone before the Marcus came. If we don't bring the Marcus to participate the second time, I'm afraid there will be trouble. You all know that the North Wind Province is not liked by other people in the Empire, Ryan said helplessly, and the nobles agreed with him, because the nobles of the North Wind Province often do not have a very deep network of relationships with those nobles in the south. Even the two earls are like this. More than half of the remaining nobles are nobles who once surrendered to the Empire. Such an identity background destined that it would be a very difficult and long thing for the nobles of the North Wind province to integrate into the empire. In fact, the identity of the son of a great southern noble like Ryan is unique in the North Wind province. It was fine before, everyone lived their own lives, but now that the Marquess of the North Wind has arrived, the Marquess is different. It is difficult for the nobles of the North Wind province to integrate into the nobles of the South, but the reverse is also true. The nobles of the South will also be excluded when they come here. Ryan used to be outside the circle, but later it was because of the war that he gradually became familiar with the nobles of the North Wind province and was recognized. The arrival of the Marquess did not have the war to cooperate with him. Seeing the silence of the nobles, Ryan felt a little helpless in his heart. Why did these nobles suddenly become so timid? The fiefdom given to the Marquess by the Empire is 100 miles around here. But there are still many lands belonging to my frozen land territory. I have to talk to the Marquess about these places, so that he won't take them away, so next time I must take the Marquess with me to develop the alternate dimension world, so that's it. The nobles reacted. They were the same. There were also lands belonging to them within a radius of 100 miles. The nobles can compromise on many things, but in this era where the primary industry is the main industry, the importance of land is self-evident. The land must not be given to the Marquess of Beefang. This is the spoils of our war. The Earl will not allow the Marquess of Beefang to occupy our land. Ryan's expression was playful. The Earl has the confidence to give it away. After all, their land is already very large, and Lyon County may not be able to take care of it. Ryan's words made the nobles silent again. They looked at Ryan, and some of them realized that the Baron seemed to be planning something. Lord Hora and Knight Badley next to him also became sharp in their eyes. Baron Ryan, the decision of the Earl is not something you can guess at. Well, they are loyal to the Earl behind them, so naturally they will not allow Baron Ryan to make up the Earl. Then I will tell the truth. Ryan no longer concealed and looked at the two Sky Knights seriously. We need to know what the two Earls mean. The two Earls have the most land in this 100-mile radius. The Earl can choose to give up, because even so, the Marquess of the North Wind cannot ignore them, but we can't give up. The land here can double our wealth. So, if the Earl can't take the lead, then we can only discuss it with the Marquess of the North Wind ourselves. Hora was also suppressed by Ryan's sudden noble aura. He was very powerful, but as a noble, he was only a lord. Any noble title here was higher than him. The Earl will naturally make a decision. Lord Horace nodded coldly. He would not make the decision for the Earl, nor would he let Ryan continue. Decision? It's too late. Ryan came to Horace's side, pulled the Sky Knight away, and pointed to the sky over there. The Marquess is here, in Thundercloud County. Almost as Ryan's voice fell, the flying wolf cavalry in the sky on the other side quickly flew towards the mountain here and came in front of Lord Hora. Captain of the Legion, the Earl asked me to tell you that the Marquess of the North Wind has entered the North Wind province and is heading to Thundercloud Mountain. He didn't need to say anything. Many nobles looked to the south. At some point, a ray of sunlight pierced through the clouds like a sharp arrow and shone on the earth. They thought it was just a sunlight phenomenon, but now they felt it carefully and found something different. The faces of the magicians recruited by the nobles changed drastically. This is the power of divinity guiding the sunlight. The nobles understood the reason, and one baron couldn't help but turn pale. It's really a divine person. They always thought that the divine person was a means used by the empire to deal with the church, but now it seems that the Marquess of the North Wind really is a divine person. A person blessed by the Lord of Dawn? At this moment, the nobles were in chaos. And Ryan had already seen that at the foot of Thundercloud Mountain, on the road illuminated by the sun, a long team came here bathed in the sunlight shining directly from the sky. On both sides were many serfs and civilians who didn't know why. They knelt on the ground and shouted the glory of the gods. Ryan even saw more than a dozen humanoid creatures with wings on their backs flying in the center of the team. They were gargoyles. Needless to say, they must have come from the Count of Danube province. Chapter 240 The First Confrontation with the Marquess. Using the divine power, the Marquess of the North Wind was bathed in golden sunlight all the way from the imperial capital to the North Wind province. This scene was destined to be recorded and passed down. The entire empire, and even the entire southern world would know that the Marquess of the North Wind, Charisna Columbus, was a person blessed by the gods. He was favored by the gods, the great Lord of the Dawn, the God of Light. Everyone was a witness, and what they saw with their own eyes would give the most impeccable appraisal of this divine grace. The amount of divine power consumed in this process must be huge, and the more so, the more recognized the identity of the Marquis of the North Wind was. Only the furious voice came from the holy mountain in the south, and the Pope who is closest to the gods was roaring. The hypocrite must die. How dare you blaspheme the glory of the Lord? How dare you make choices on behalf of the gods? Empire, you should be destroyed. Even at the beginning of the war, the church had never been so angry. Everyone recognized the identity of the Marquis of the North Wind as a person blessed by the gods. Only they, the devout believers of the Lord of the Dawn, knew the whole truth. The blasphemer should be banished to the abyss forever. After the rage, the holy mountain became extremely quiet, so quiet that it was a little scary. In the North Wind province, on Thundercloud Mountain, many nobles could only bite the bullet to receive the Marquis who came from afar. The Marquis of the North Wind, Columbus, was a middle-aged man with blonde hair and golden eyes. His appearance could attract most women in the world, and perhaps some men. When the nobles saw the appearance of the Marquis of the North Wind, they subconsciously thought that only such a flawless face could be favored by the gods. However, the Marquis seemed to have a bad temper. For many years, no blasphemers from the church dared to invade the land of the empire. Only the North Wind province became the first land invaded by the church. This belongs to the empire and the great Columbus. It is a land that blasphemers cannot enter, but they still came. It seems that there are still many flaws in this land. I come here on behalf of the great God of light and the empire. I come to this place that has been blasphemed by the blasphemers. I will purify all the darkness and filth here. At this moment, Ryan also understood why. Why is the merit of destroying 1,000 holy heavenly knights and repelling their legion daemons so small in the eyes of the empire, so small that it only exempts the North Wind province from tax for 1 year? Because only when other interests are involved can the merit brought by another thing be suppressed. For example, at the level of war, the previous war in the North Wind province was undoubtedly a huge victory that could inspire the empire's war in the south. However, it is different at the level of faith in the gods. The favored one, that is, the Marquis in front of him, thinks this is a blasphemy. This is not a victory, but a shame. On the land of the empire, on his territory, the blasphemers of the church appeared, which was an insult to the gods. How could such a shame be considered a victory? The majesty of the gods does not allow a trace of stain, and the North Wind province has become such a stain. Such an understanding made Ryan speechless, but in this world that does have gods, it seems extremely reasonable. As believers of light, they naturally think that the approach of darkness is a fault. For the favored, it is even more of a shame that they are not devout enough in their faith. The struggle of faith suppressed the credit that the North Wind province should have, but it was the entire North Wind province that bore all this. Ryan, who understood this, looked at the Marquis of the North Wind with an unfriendly look. He looked at Lord Hora, and the Sky Knight's eyes were a little erratic at the moment. Obviously, he could not make certain decisions. Most of the nobles around were also intimidated by the grace of the Marquis. Ryan was speechless in his heart, and finally stood up and looked at the Marquis of the North Wind in front of him. Baron of the Frozen Territory, Ryan Clayton, greets the Marquis. Clayton. Marcus B. Fang paused, then looked at Ryan. Oh, so you are the little guy of the Clayton family. You look a lot like your father. Earl Clayton is also my friend. Back then, he and I were together. Marcus B. Fang was reminiscing about the past, and Ryan also smiled, as if he had established a relationship with the Marquis. Soon, the two stood side by side. Mr. Marcus, since you have such a relationship with my father, I will also arrange some soldiers to be your guards when you come to Bifang province. Bifang province is close to the northern border, and you know that it is not so safe here. Also, I heard that your fiefdom is a radius of 100 miles around Thundercloud Mountain. You may not know that there are many other nobles' lands in this 100-mile land. With my people helping you, you can also find out which ones they are. Marcus B. Feng, Columbus, frowned and looked at Ryan. Baron Ryan, my territory is the Empire. It was personally conferred by the royal family, and it was crowned by Emperor Columbus himself, just like you were back then. It is sacred and inviolable. The Empire and the royal family have given me 100 miles of land around Thundercloud Mountain. Everything here belongs to me, and there is no other land. As soon as these words came out, the nobles around them all looked at each other subtly, and they gradually realized that this was a political struggle between the Marquis and them. Mr. Marcus, that piece of land belongs to my Baron Enzo family. The noble's territory is also sacred and inviolable. There is my flags planted there, Baron Enzo stood up and said, and other nobles also spoke up. They were unwilling to give up their own territories. Those lands are the spoils we harvested after defeating the Church and Count Weiss. They were strictly divided according to the military merits of the Empire to each noble who won the victory. The victory of the war is recognized by the Empire. Ryan also whispered beside the Marquis of Bifen, but everyone could hear his voice clearly. Baron Ryan, that's not how it's calculated. Ryan opened his eyes wide, with an unbelievable look on his face. Has the Empire stripped Count Weiss of his title? When this was said, even the Marquis Bifang twitched his mouth and almost coughed. How dare he answer this? The royal family has no right to deprive a noble of his title. To put it bluntly, the war between the Empire and the Church is a war between divine power and royal power. What is royal power? Every ruler in the Empire, every noble who owns territory, is a representative of royal power. The royal family also needs the support of all nobles, not only within the Empire, but also with the support of so many nobles in the south. How could they possibly say something like depriving the title, which would alert nobles all over the world? Count Weiss is fine, but the other nobles are not like Count Weiss, who is a prisoner. They control land and territory with huge military forces. Marquis Bifang was frightened by Ryan's words, but he didn't know the situation in the Bifang province. He just thought Ryan was a pawn pushed out by the nobles here. After all, the two earls didn't speak, and it looked abnormal for a baron to speak so much first. He began to educate Ryan in the tone of an elder, with a serious tone. Chapter 241, Retreat and Compromise. Baron Ryan, the royal family will not deprive any noble of his title. Their titles were born from their ancestors, who made great contributions to the empire. Even if their descendants did something wrong, they cannot erase their ancestors' contributions. The eldest son of Earl Weiss can still live a comfortable life on the west coast as a wandering noble. Ryan nodded in confusion and said, so that's how it is. In that case, you can't take away the land of those nobles, because that was the land that Earl Weiss used to mortgage to the nobles after the war. Since Earl Weiss's title is still there, all the deals he made must be effective. Yes, yes, the other nobles also echoed that if this matter could be resolved, it would be considered that these nobles could rest assured today. Marquis Bifang laughed and patted Ryan on the shoulder. Leon, you are not a noble from the south, so you are not very clear about the rights and responsibilities of nobles, as well as the rules. This is normal. After all, many nobles in the North Wind province were not from the Empire. There is a law in the Empire, a law recognized by the gods, that is, all the territories of nobles are granted by the great ancestor Columbus. When a noble in the Empire betrays the Empire, the royal family has the right to take back all the granted land. The war between Earl Weiss and you is undoubtedly a betrayal of the Empire. He defected to the blasphemous church. Therefore, the royal family has the right to take back all the land of Earl Weiss. Ryan's face did not change. This is the so-called final right of interpretation belongs to the Empire and the royal family. Of course, the premise is that the matter of Earl Weiss is indeed a betrayal of the Empire and all the nobles in the Empire. But at this moment, the faces of other nobles were a little pale. They also knew this, but they didn't know that the Marquis of the North Wind would use this to veto the wealth they won in the war. Land is the lifeblood of the nobles, and they are a little anxious. But at this time, Ryan spoke again. Only land, yes, the most important wealth of a noble is the territory granted by the Empire. As long as he does not betray the Empire, the territory is sacred and inviolable. In fact, if it were not for the war between the Empire and the Church in the South during this period, the royal family would not use such cruel laws to take away everything from Count Weiss. It is not that there have been nobles who betrayed the Empire before, but at that time the royal family still retained their family's land. Many years later, some of the descendants of those nobles took back the territory. What Count Weiss did this time is too serious, Marquis Bifang said in a warning. He warned all the nobles in front of him not to play any tricks on this matter. And he, Marquis Bifang, must also give the nobles of the entire province a warning when he comes to Bifang province. Just use these lands. He wants all the nobles to understand the price of colluding with the church, as well as his status as Marquis Bifang. If that's the case, there's nothing we can do, but fortunately, the things that Earl Weiss compensated me, Earl Winter, and Earl Solon before are not part of these lands, Ryan said with some ease, and the Marquis of the North Wind also laughed. Yes, Ryan, some things are for you to take. Your father and I, Then he saw that in full view of the crowd. Ryan passed those nobles, walked to the other side, and picked up a huge beast fang. The Marcus of the North Wind felt divinity on it. And the moment the fang was taken off, the portal to the other dimension on Thundercloud Mountain also disappeared. That other dimension world, and this divine key, are the spoils that Earl Weiss paid to me and the two earls after the war. Since Earl Weiss's title has not been deprived, and the other dimension does not belong to the land of the Empire, then Lord Marcus, when we come to Thundercloud Mountain to enter the other dimension world in the future, please give us some convenience. After all, this is already your territory, and it is not easy for us nobles to stay here. Bang bang bang. Krishna slammed heavily on the solid wood table, and the thick table was dented with several fist marks in an instant. Ryan. The damn little guy actually plotted against me. He looks just like his father, insidious and cunning. The Marcus was alone in the castle on Thundercloud Mountain, furious. Does he care about the land? Of course, any noble cares about every inch of their territory. This is their foundation. In fact, he had something to say before, that is, even if they betrayed the Empire, the royal family must have the strength to take back the land before it can be considered recovered. Otherwise, everything must follow the principle that the noble's territory is sacred and inviolable. Does he care about that alternate world? He cares even more. The biggest reason why his fiefdom is within 100 miles of Thundercloud Mountain is because the Empire now knows that the portal to that alternate world is on Thundercloud Mountain. If he occupies this place, won't he become the master of that alternate world? But now, Ryan took the key and set him up again and again, letting him reveal in his words that the alternate dimension world and the divine fang key were only the spoils paid to them by Count Weiss after his defeat. They were not within the range of the royal family's recovery. This is called retreat to advance. On the other side, Ryan and other nobles did not actually leave, but stopped at a baron's territory. Looking at the huge fangs, the nobles couldn't help but admire Ryan's previous wisdom. This Marcus B. Fang doesn't look that scary, but, what are we doing here? A noble asked, looking at Ryan. Ryan asked them not to leave for the time being, waiting for the arrival of other nobles, especially the two earls, as if he thought those nobles would definitely come here. This concerns the interests of every noble in Bifang province. If they are unwilling to come, it means that they have given up their land here, and then we don't have to help them protect their interests. Give it as a gift to the Marcus Bifang. Can we get our land back? Some nobles' eyes widened and they became excited. They thought that they had no hope in this 100-mile territory and that it would be occupied by the Marcus Bifang. Fortunately, this was also robbed, not his real territory, so he was not too angry. In fact, it was because he got the land too quickly. Ryan pointed to the huge fangs not far away. Do you think we can stop the Marcus from developing the other world plane with us? The nobles thought about it and shook their heads. This is a difficult matter. The Marcus came to Bifang province so early, I'm afraid he came for the other world plane. Now this alien world belongs to us. Since we can't eat alone, let's step back and give the Marcus a chance. As a reward, shouldn't the Marcus give us something in return? How about using the land that originally belonged to us to repay us? Okay, a Viscount clapped his thigh and laughed, which made Ryan secretly shake his head. These nobles are happy to exchange the land that originally belonged to them for the qualification to enter the alien world. Chapter 242 Seizing the Right to Speak. After waiting for 5 days in the barony, the civilians here were naturally miserable. They had to serve these nobles while working. In particular, the number of nobles was increasing. Seeing those nobles coming with soldiers, the civilians lowered their heads and dared not look up. The smile on Ryan's face also disappeared. He looked at Lord Hora and the knight badly. It seems that the two earls have made their choice. Without the support of the two earls, these small nobles directly faced a Marcus, and the pressure was not ordinary. Then please say hello to the earl for me after you go back. This means that Ryan and the two earls parted ways, and perhaps the nobles who stood on his side at the moment. Seeing this, the two Sky Knights could not stay any longer. The farthest nobles arrived here within 5 days. The speed of the two earls could not be so slow. It has not appeared yet, which means that the earl has given up the land here. As the earl's men, they naturally can no longer follow Ryan to get benefits. Seeing that the earl had also made a choice, some of the nobles who arrived later also became hesitant, and several of them even turned away. It was too unwise for them to go against a Marcus for the land of Thundercloud County. It seems that we are the only ones left. Ryan looked at the nobles around him and laughed again. It was good that without the two earls, he could continue to improve his reputation in the eyes of these nobles, which would be beneficial to the future economic development of the frozen land. With these nobles back to Thundercloud Mountain, Ryan waited for the appearance of the Marcus. "You'd better be careful, this Krishna. I heard from my wife that he has a bad temper. When he was in the south, he often killed slaves for fun. I heard that in the manor, he often asked the maids to take off their clothes and fight with knights' long swords, and those who survived would be favored by him. He used to compete for the title of Marquess of more provinces, but he failed, which made his temper become moody. Such a person can also receive God's grace?" Ryan asked with his head tilted, but Viscount Hogg did not continue. Ryan also felt that the divine grace of the Marcus should not be granted by the gods, at least, it would not be granted voluntarily. When the Marquis of Bifang saw Ryan again, he no longer had the look he had before when looking at his juniors. In the depths of his eyes, there was a strong indifference and anger. Marcus, Ryan, I underestimated you, the youngest military genius in Bifang province, a commander who can command tens of thousands of adults. In the past few days, the Marcus has figured out the true strength of Ryan. It seems that this man is not without friends in Bifang province. Tell me, what do you want to do here? We just want to get the land that originally belongs to us. As a reward, we are willing to share the portal to the alternate world with you. Ryan said, neither servile nor arrogant. He knew that in the team that followed the Marcus here this time, there was a wizard of at least the Holy Land following him, who is likely only one step away from becoming a legend, and was even more powerful than the Countess. In addition, there were hundreds of powerful extraordinary people and a pioneer army of up to 1,500 people. Also, the other party can influence the army of Flying Wing Canyon, so it seems that there are only so few people. But in fact, as long as the Marcus is willing, the army of Flying Wing Canyon can appear in the north. Impossible, that is my territory, that is the land we gained in the war, which belonged to the former Earl Weiss. The Empire has laws. The laws of the Empire cannot plunder the territories that already belong to the nobles. There are flags of each of our nobles on those lands. At this moment, Ryan has completely stood on the opposite side of the Marcus. He must do this. If he wants to gather the nobles around him, he must have a reason. This is not like a war. Once the war is over, the cohesion is not enough. This involves disputes over land. As long as the land exists, they are natural allies. When facing the Marcus, they are allies, and this relationship can naturally extend to all aspects. In fact, this is Ryan snatching the two earls' right to speak in the North Wind province. The other world is huge, and the wealth there far exceeds the benefits of these few pieces of land. It is impossible for the Marcus to want everything. We have no control over the land of the two earls and other nobles, but the land that belongs to us must be hoisted with our flag. The great nobles can ignore the land, but we are just small nobles and need the wealth grown from the land. The Marcus stared at Ryan, thinking of his previous failures. The biggest reason for his failure was that the royal family believed that he did not have the bearing and reason of a noble. Decades of precipitation made him calm down. Only this time, your land will be returned to you in the name of a transaction, but the divine key must be left behind. Of course, it's not on Thundercloud Mountain, so this key has no meaning to us. But I think the biggest role of this key is to prevent the armies of the two great nobles from entering it on a large scale. Right, Earl Weiss has been developing the other world for 5 years, but he has only captured 20,000 to 30,000 natives. But with the help of the Flying Wolf Cavalry, he can catch up with Earl Weiss in a few months. The development of the other plane belongs to all the nobles of the North Wind province. The Marcus could not refute this. This is the spoils of victory in the war. Even if other people from the royal family come, the Marcus of the North Wind must stand on the side of the nobles of the North Wind province. But it can be imagined that in the future, entering and leaving the other plane will definitely be a problem. But Ryan didn't care. With the arrival of the Marcus, the two earls also tacitly agreed to give the land here to the Marcus of the North Wind. Naturally, the previous matter about Ryan being the commander-in-chief responsible for the development of the other plane world was also declared shattered. The fragile alliance disappeared, and the nobles could only hunt for the wealth of the alternate dimension world on their own. In other words, it was enclosure. This time, the two earls were no longer silent. They came to Thundercloud Mountain and enclosed land with all the nobles. Nobles can only hunt in their own areas. If the prey runs into the enclosure of other nobles, they need to negotiate. These places belong to the frozen land territory. Ryan walked to the rough map after the three great nobles. In his opinion, this vague enclosure was meaningless. Moreover, the area on the map was not the entire alternate dimension. There were many places they didn't know. The most important thing was that after enclosing the land, could the people sent by the nobles really beat those beasts? Ryan felt uncertain. One by one, the nobles stepped forward to choose the places they valued. Marcus Bifang also took this opportunity to see the situation in Bifang province clearly. He didn't expect Ryan's status here was second only to the two earls. This made him very unhappy. This place belongs to the indigenous tribe. We have a contract with them and cannot choose. Ryan stopped Viscount Hogg from making a large selection. The Viscount looked at Ryan and finally narrowed the scope. After all the nobles finished, Marcus Bifang finally showed some of his sincerity. Chapter 243 Chopping Wood in a Different World. The divinity contained in the divine key is limited. It will disappear in 10 years at most. The Marcus of the North Wind has divinity, and through some other means, he can feel the consumption of the Fang key to open the plane portal. Can it be understood that the divinity of the alternate plane world will also disappear in 10 years, and after that, that world can no longer stop the winter blowing from the north? We only have 10 years to develop the alternate plane, Ryan asked, without any embarrassment of the previous confrontation with the Marcus. Yes, in 10 years, those places will also be covered by wind and snow. As for when the world will completely die, it is uncertain. The Marcus of the North Wind did not finish speaking. He guessed that the gods of the alternate plane world still have some will. 10 years? The nobles present were of different colors. Some hoped that the alternate plane could exist forever, so they would have an extra large territory, which was an unimaginable opportunity for the noble lords, but 10 years was too short. Perhaps after this generation, the next generation of heirs would return to the appearance that the small nobles should have. You can't expect a Baron Ryan to lead the family to rise, right? I'm not even Earl Clayton yet. As for a small number of nobles, they were relieved. In 10 years, they felt that they had a good chance to move all the wealth of the alternate dimension world to their own territory. In this case, in order to ensure the storage of divinity and the development progress of the alternate dimension, we can't go in and out as we did before. Ryan stood up and said. Marcus Bifang looked at Ryan with relief. He felt that this was Ryan showing goodwill to him and telling other nobles that he would be in charge of the divine key. But the next moment he heard the other party continue to say, I think it might be a good choice to open it within 10 days. We don't have so much time to develop the alternate dimension. If we can make this world last for a few more years, it would be good. 10 days is just right. The prey we hunt can be well preserved in the Bifang province. The two earls also nodded. They didn't stand on the side of the Marcus. After all, this alternate dimension was their gain. Then open the door once every 10 days. Marcus Bifang took a deep breath and suppressed his anger. This Marcus, it seems that he is not so easy to deal with. In the other dimension, Baron Enzo brought his army of 100 people and Ryan, watching the soldiers of the frozen land begin to cut down dead trees. He is easy to deal with, but the difficult thing is what the empire behind Marcus Bifang wants to do with the identity of the Marcus as a pioneer of light. This is a dispute in the war between the empire and the church, but we don't know anything until now. After Ryan finished speaking, Baron Enzo fell silent. Indeed, they were too far away from the south and knew nothing. Why are you cutting trees? Baron Enzo was curious. He felt that every decision made by Ryan had huge gains, so he couldn't help but be curious. The armies of other nobles were hunting beasts and picking precious medicinal herbs and magical crops, but after Ryan came in, he just asked people to cut trees. Hunting? Don't worry. As for those medicinal herbs and precious planting resources, they are there and will not disappear. Besides, do you think we can find more by ourselves than the natives? Ryan didn't say a word. His relationship with Baron Enzo was not that good. It was because everyone was hunting the beasts in the mountains and forests now. However, those beasts were not stupid. They were bathed in divinity and had considerable survival instincts. If they found that they could not defeat the army, they would run away. And now the area Ryan had circled was the safest. Is it necessary to say where the beasts would run? The area Ryan had circled did not have the largest number of beasts, but he believed that it would not be long before the area he had circled would have the most beasts. Coming back to his senses, he watched the soldiers tie the firewood with vines. Of course, we cut wood for firewood. Ryan pointed at the neatly arranged firewood and said, my frozen land territory is colder than your territory. I need a lot of firewood in winter, but I don't want to cut trees in my own territory. so I can only cut the trees here. The value of firewood is not high. Enzo shook his head and said, meaning that Ryan could spend some gold coins to buy it from other lords. I need a lot. Ryan did not explain further. After the forest was cleared, he would even borrow slaves from the surrounding nobles to help cut firewood. So, after 10 days, all the nobles left with satisfaction, and only Ryan was followed by a small mountain of firewood. Baron Ryan, does your frozen earth territory need so much firewood? A baron came up curiously, looking for firewood. The frozen earth territory has a population of tens of thousands, and the gap is too big. Anyway, there are many tall trees in the other plane, so they should be very resistant to burning. That's true, but the value of these things is too low. After saying that, the baron left, and Ryan did not explain, and led the soldiers back to the frozen earth territory. In the days to come, someone will represent the frozen earth territory to enter and exit the other plane world. They will bring wealth that can be seen by others to Ryan. As for the invisible wealth, in the other plane, the leader of the Blue Lion tribe, Cao, led dozens of natives to dig in a river valley with hoes, and finally dug out a crack in the ground. Chief, how do you think that alien noble know that there is a crack under here? Some natives were curious. They lived for so long without knowing it. They looked at the crack under their feet with curiosity. Cao did not speak, but picked up the hoe and smashed it hard on one side of the crack. Soon after, a piece of gold nugget was dug out by him. Bag, a native behind him brought a rough sack. This kind of thing must be hidden well. It is to be handed over to our friends. No one is allowed to tell others. Feeling the blood and energy surging in his body, Cao said indifferently. The natives trembled and did not dare to challenge the authority of the leader. Besides, they had no opinions. Whatever the leader said was the truth. The natives were so stubborn. However, some people were puzzled. Chief, many of those nobles from other worlds are more powerful than that kid. Why don't we make friends with him? Cao thought about it, but he didn't understand it, so he punched the native behind him. No means no, why say so much? But soon, he seemed to have been unlocked by some shackles. This is what our friend told us to do. We just need to do it. But we can use other things to try to make friends with other nobles from other worlds. Ryan, who had already entered Lingdu County, didn't know about the Green Lion tribe's little tricks. Even if he knew, he wouldn't care. Thinking of the excitement of the Green Lion tribe leader Cao when he left, Ryan knew that he had an advantage that no other noble had. He could bless the natives with the gods and let them embark on an extraordinary path. Although the natives are powerful, they are still ordinary people at heart. And for this kind of miracle, the natives are much more excited. I don't know how Earl Weiss trained the barbarians in the first place. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 244 Vatican Missionaries. Ryan returned to the frozen territory with a large amount of firewood and ordered that the firewood be stored in the warehouse. Some of the firewood would be taken out in the sun to dry, waiting for the winter when it would be used. Ryan's guess was correct. The firewood in the mountain forest world was very durable and generally of high quality. Sir, this is the amount of arable land reclaimed by several lords in the frozen territory this month. Please take a look. Looking at the table marked on it, Ryan praised Beard. Yes, tell them that if they can maintain the reclamation of these arable lands next year, they will be exempted from the debt of 500 gold coins. Bild was surprised, and then said, Master, you are so kind, let them pay off their debts earlier, and they will reclaim the wasteland faster than now. Ryan put down the monthly report in his hand and asked, has Lord Yaz given up the reclamation? Yes, Lord Yaz felt through Madame Sarah that your business route in the future in the frozen land will definitely make a fortune, so he joined in advance. Sarah was the lady official of the Viscountess. When Ryan was in the frozen land, she knew Ryan's plan for the frozen land late at night. However, I heard from Lord Yaz's wife that they did not completely give up the reclamation, but waited until Master Yelena's magic research was completed before reclaiming the wasteland. They thought that would be faster than the current reclamation speed. That's an idea. Ryan nodded. Since Lord Yaz had a plan, he would not force him to go to the reclamation. Not long after, Bran came to the castle. He was very idle when he followed Ryan to leave, but after returning to the frozen land, This young man who was about the same age as Ryan also became busy. Brand, you look good, but it seems that it is not because of the breakthrough of the knight's cultivation, but because you get along well with Etria. Brand blushed rarely and handed over a list. Master, I have found all the people you need for you. There were 200 names on it, and their family relationships, addresses, and some simple descriptions were behind the names, which was equivalent to roster. 200 reserves, including the people we added before. At most 2 months, I will have 900 soldiers. Ryan smiled with satisfaction. The quality of these recruits was not bad, and nearly half of them were promoted from the militia. He put down the list and looked at Brand. So, have you decided on the candidates for the 9 centurions? Harrington. Brand said 4 names, and he personally thought that these 4 people could become centurions. After listening, Ryan nodded, because these 4 people were the 4 people who originally came to the frozen territory from the Earl of Clayton with his wealth, and they were all from the Clayton family. Of course, it was also because the 4 of them were indeed the 4 most powerful silver knights in the army today. I plan to select the remaining 5 centurions from the army, and the strongest one will get the status of centurion. The decurions will also be selected in this way, and the strongest warrior will be the leader of the soldiers. Okay, let's do as you say, but don't forget that all officers need to learn. Brand couldn't help but nodded with a headache. There was no way. This was the only requirement of Master Ryan, that is, every decurion and centurion must learn a certain degree of knowledge. Most people were very happy because this was a wealth that could be passed down from generation to generation, but when they really started learning, the wailing in the barracks made the people of the frozen territory think they were attacked by demons. But no one rejected it, and all the soldiers praised Master Ryan's kindness. The days of the Lord, of course, are to command others. For several days in a row, Master Ryan was in the castle, commanding the arrangements of the whole frozen land during the day, and at night he had the maids line up to check the progress of knowledge during this period. Life is nourishing, making him extremely grateful that he was reborn as a noble. Gurgle gurgle, the fruit wine went down his throat, and the fragrance of the fruit intoxicated Ryan. He became more and more certain that such fruit wine could be sold at a sky-high price in the south, especially on the west coast. Now he only needs to wait for his father-in-law, the Viscount Melendez family, to send the money for the previous batch of fruit wine to verify the truth. However, it seems that there is no peace today. There are birds circling in the sky, and the soldiers found about a preacher of the Holy See? Or a priest? Ryan was a little surprised that the high-level talents of the Holy See would appear here. The hierarchy within the Holy See is terrible, but from the Pope to every monk, they can say that they are believers of the Lord of Dawn. However, most of the believers in the Holy See are just monks or nuns. A small number of people will stand out and become missionaries. Their words represent the will of the gods, or in other words, they are qualified to interpret the thoughts of the gods. At this time, ordinary monks and nuns can no longer say that they are also missionaries. Conversely, the Pope can also say that he is a missionary or a believer. This is a downward compatible identity level distinction. In short, if you look at it simply, the huge church has only 2 sides of one group. That is, everyone is a believer of the Lord, but some are monks and nuns, and some are missionaries. Missionaries are equivalent to the nobles of the empire, above countless monks and nuns. Of course, on the surface, they are not as extreme as nobles and ordinary people. On the basis of missionaries, some missionaries will get some rights. For example, if a missionary serves as a priest in a church on a piece of land in a certain country, then this kind of missionary is a missionary with status, similar to a baron with territory. Going up, as a bishop in a region, the status is comparable to a viscount with a fiefdom. From top to bottom, the church seems to be a believer of the Lord, with no difference, but in fact, the hierarchy is so strict that low-level monks can't refute the clergy with power. This is why Ryan was surprised. A missionary died, but a missionary with the status of a priest died in the north, which is equivalent to the death of a baron of the empire. This is not a trivial matter. The priest is a priest in the church he is in charge of, and is also called a priest by people other than believers. When he leaves the church, he will walk as a priest of the church. Therefore, the priest walking outside is the priest inside the church, and is the priest in the eyes of outsiders. What's wrong with that? Why did he die near my frozen land? You are not thoughtful. Ryan murmured, and then waved his hand. Throw him away, no, burn him directly, find a place where no one is. If the relationship between the empire and the church was not like it is now, Ryan would definitely hand the body over to the nearest church as soon as he found it to avoid trouble. But now, he just wanted to think that this incident had never happened. What? You said that a priest died near my territory? Not true, there is no such thing. What? The priests of the church are coming to judge me? What do you mean? You want to challenge all the nobles of the empire. The war has begun, and there is no need for any extra mercy. Chapter 245 The Marcus is preaching. In the north, in the vast ice and snow, a group of people rode on the back of the huge monster snow eagle, looking towards the south, which is the territory of the empire. Archbishop, Missionary Buffett has been meeting the Marcus of the North Wind for several days, and there is no news. Should we go and look for him? Someone whispered behind a woman with fiery red hair, a big wavy figure and a solemn and sacred expression. Hearing the other party's question, the woman's eyes showed grief. No need to look for him. Father Buffett is a devout believer of our Lord. He has returned to heaven and listened to the greatness of our Lord. Now, what we have to do is to enter the empire and ask the Marcus of the empire why he killed the believers of our Lord. He is crossing the God. As soon as the words of the crossing God came out, everyone behind him became angry, as if there was something sinful in the south that made them feel sick. That place should be purified. The glory of my Lord will burn every heresy. The entire empire will be transformed into a pure white sea of fire under the glory of my Lord. The red-haired big wave in the lead did not speak, but urged the snow eagle to dive to the south. The snow eagle has a huge skeleton. Because of this, it cannot have the powerful strength of a dragon, nor can it soar into the sky like an eagle. It can fly into the sky, but only by gliding. If it had not mastered the magic of wind attributes, it would be just a huge chicken walking on the ground. But it is not. It is a magic beast. It has mastered magic, and thus has become a very good and safe mount. Well, from an 80-year-old man to an 8-month-old child, everyone can play safely on its back. Frozen territory. Soldiers rode horses from the outside mountains and forests to quickly enter the territory, then rode through the town without stopping, climbed up the rhinoceros horn mountain, and entered the castle. Lord, tell me, what have you found? Ryan asked. Your people in Lion County have found that the servants of the Marquis of Bifang often come to communicate with them in recent days. After several exchanges, they gave them some books. Books are valuable to civilians and slaves, so Ryan himself didn't know at first, fearing that they would be taken away by his lord. After speaking, the soldier had taken out several yellowed books. Paper, no, it shouldn't be called paper, but books made of bark. When he opened it, a sun came into view. A round sun model with 13 edges and corners around it, very similar to something Ryan saw in another world. But this thing did not come from a child, because there was a line of symbols under the sun. Ryan obviously didn't recognize those symbols, but the moment he saw the symbols, he knew that it was a line of words. It means that the sun is the master of all things, the creator of the world, and the god of light. This method is obviously not something that a child can draw casually. It is not something that can be understood by seeing it. For civilian slaves who have not received knowledge and education, this kind of thing is naturally a miracle. Ryan was silent. This is probably what the Empire launched to fight against the theocracy of the Church, the God of Light. The God of Light of the Empire is essentially the Lord of the Dawn of the Church, but the Empire wants to change this name to eliminate the majesty of the Church in this world for countless years. As the patron of light of the Empire and the person blessed by the gods himself, the Marcus of the North Wind needs to let more people know about the belief in light. Ryan turned to the next few pages. This book has only 5 or 6 pages in total. The handwriting at the back should be copied, and there is no power to understand the meaning of the words just by looking at them. The description above is similar to the basic doctrine of the Church. It is probably praising the omnipotent light and giving all things the opportunity to grow. Everyone should be grateful for the gift that the God of Light brings to mortals. Every ray of sunshine they enjoy and every flame that illuminates the night are gifts from the God of Light. They should fear the light, serve the light, and dedicate everything to the light. These things are almost the same as those of the Church. Ryan even suspected that they were copied from the Church. Replace the word Lord, that is, the Lord of the Dawn, with the word God of Light, and it becomes the property of the Empire, and becomes the evidence that the Marquis of Bifang is favored by the gods. Because the content of this book, according to the people, is what the Marquis of Bifang realized after the gods blessed him. Ryan then put the book down. Although there are gods in this world, he still doesn't care about it. Let him believe in religion? It's impossible. So, This Marquis of Bifang came to Bifang province just to preach. Ryan felt a little angry, because he had already regarded Bifang province as his own possession. But now, the church regards Bifang province as a test of the empire. The empire has also half abandoned this place and turned to Bifang province as a test field. Why is it here? Because after the Wing Canyon, the other provinces of the empire are too stable, and any changes that occur may bring disaster. Once a disaster breaks out in those provinces, it will spread to most areas of the entire empire. Only the North Wind province. No matter what problems occur here, as long as the garrison in the Wing Canyon still exists, the empire will rest assured. No matter what problems occur in the North Wind province, people in the south of the empire will not know about it and cause panic, because the news here will basically not appear in any province in the south. Therefore, the North Wind province is the best testing ground. The empire wants to combine theocracy and royal power in the emperor, and the Marquis of the North Wind is a believer of the God of Light who was pushed out. He is called the pioneer of the empire and the apostle of light. Combined, he became the pioneer of light. It's just that he did not open up land, but the spread of faith. This really touches the taboo of the church. Ryan narrowed his eyes and found Master Luna with a book. There are traces of soul magic on this bark paper. You may not know that soul magic has always been a very difficult magic to practice. I am also trapped in it. To be able to arrange soul magic so delicately on paper, he must be a legendary wizard, and he is very powerful in the legend. Envy and yearning appeared in the huge gem eyes of Luna Mage. She is now trapped in the golem puppet and cannot do many things because her soul magic practice is not strong enough. Ryan blinked and said, I want to ask, is there anything special about this book? Nothing special, it's just ordinary bark made by magic. No, it should be made by alchemists. Very rough. Luna Mage only knew about the extraordinary path of alchemy after she came here, and she didn't know much. But just after she finished speaking, she saw Ryan's fiery eyes. You Luna Mage, your mage tower may continue to be put on the agenda. Chapter 246 The Archbishop and the Marquis. Thundercloud County, the territory of the Marquis of Bifang. The tall Thundercloud Mountain is the only mountain in this county. When Earl Weiss left, this place gradually became desolate. With the arrival of the Marquis of Bifang, this place will be glorious again. But today, some unwelcome guests have arrived here. An archbishop of the Holy See came to the territory of the Marquis of Bifang with missionaries openly and honestly, and met the Lord here as a believer of the gods. Please face up to your words, missionary. The Marquis of Bifang sat on a gorgeous chair in a white noble robe, looking down at the people of the Holy See below. Facing the oppression of the Marquis of Bifang's momentum, the big red-haired woman had no anger at all, which made the Marquis a little unhappy. He wanted to see if this woman really had no human emotions. If you want to break the defense of the missionaries of the Holy See, of course, you have to use formal means. For example, in addition, I am the patron of the gods and the blesser of light. I have seen the glory of my Lord in the cracks of time and space, and I have also spread the faith of light in the deepest part of the abyss. The Lord of the Dawn is one of the identities of my Lord, the God of Light. Therefore, Archbishop Adriana, you should call me an apostle. You who serve my Lord should obey me. The Marquis of the North Wind looked at the red-haired wavy eyes, revealing a hint of lust. In his mind, he had already imagined the other party struggling naked in front of him, just like the wailing servants in the past. He liked that picture very much, but if the Archbishop of the Holy See was to carry out all this, he believed that he could reach an unprecedented peak in it. Hearing the words of the Marquis of the North Wind, the other missionaries behind Archbishop Adriana all showed angry eyes, with a murderous intent that could not be desecrated in the depths of their eyes. Some of them were even gathering divine arts to kill the imperial nobles who were blaspheming their faith in front of them. No clergyman of the church could accept such blasphemy, but the archbishop who led the group remained calm. My Lord has never said that there are believers like you. My Lord is merciful. He will never blame people other than believers for their disrespectful words. He treats every person generously and tolerates all good and evil. As soon as the church staff who had been working in this field for many years spoke, they surpassed the Marquis of Bifang. Even the missionaries calmed down and looked at the Marquis of Bifang as if they were caring for a mentally retarded person. The Marquis of Bifang, who was a little overwhelmed by this look, finally had a gloomy expression. How dare you deny the Apostle of Light? Milan, a gust of wind blew, and there was already a figure in the hall. A figure covered in mithril armor stood between the Marquis of Bifang and the missionaries. The blasphemer will be remembered by death. A legend that has never been recorded appeared here. At this moment, all the missionaries, including the archbishop, were under great pressure. They didn't know that the empire would arrange a legendary knight to serve as the guard of the Marquess of the North Wind. Is it so important? Adriana's heart was also fluctuating, but her expression still maintained a devout faith, which had been solidified for more than 30 years. When we entered this land that betrayed the gods, we were already ready to return to heaven. If we can see the glory of our Lord in advance, it is also the guidance of fate, Adriana said, with a brilliance of divine magic flashing in her eyes. At this moment, she felt that her faith was not devout enough, otherwise how could she be oppressed by the legendary aura in front of her? Her faith has never wavered. I come on behalf of the Church, and on behalf of every believer who opens his eyes under the dawn of our Lord. Father Buffett, who was devout to our Lord, died on the land of the Empire. The Empire must give an explanation to all the servants of our Lord, punish the sinner who killed Father Buffett, and apologize to all the clergy of the Church. Under the mercy of our Lord, the Church has forgiven the Empire's betrayal, but this does not mean that the clergy of the Church can be killed by the people of the Empire. Adriana finally said her purpose. What the hell? Marcus B. Fang frowned, and for a moment, he did not understand. In the hall, the legendary knight Mulan also sighed in his heart, and then said to Marcus B. Fang, she meant that the people of the Church died in the Bifang province, and the Empire should be responsible for this matter. Responsible? Marcus B. Fang's voice became louder at this moment, and he became extremely excited. Shameless Church, blasphemers under the faith of the God of Light, are you playing this game again? In the imperial capital, your cardinal committed suicide in front of His Majesty the Emperor, framed the entire empire, and started a war in the south. Now you want to do it again. Do you really think the empire can be bullied like this? Mulan, kill them for me. Tell all the landowners in the south that no one can frame the empire twice in the same way. Knight Mulan was about to make a move, but suddenly saw the flashing cross between the towering chest of the red-haired archbishop. His face turned ugly at this moment and he returned to his original position. She has a gift from the Church. Everything here is recorded and transmitted back to the Holy Mountain. She is the envoy of the Church to the Empire. When the two armies fight, the envoys are not killed. The nobles in this world are even more deeply involved in this. After hearing this, the Marquess of Bifang also turned pale. Just like when the Empire would not refuse the Church's viewing ceremony in the imperial capital, here, he could not directly chop these clergymen of the Church. What should we do? Do you really want me to give her an explanation? Damn it, I haven't even seen that messed up priest. You want the Empire to be responsible? No way, drive them away. This time, the legendary knight did not hesitate. The huge force drove all the Church personnel and threw them directly to the foot of Thunder Cloud Mountain. You are not welcome here, go away. Standing on the ground, with lingering fear, Archbishop Adriana's eyes were a little confused. The Marquess of the North Wind did not seem to be acting. Could it be that Father Buffett was really not killed by the other party? Who could it be? In any case, Father Buffett died in the territory of the Empire. The Empire must be responsible for this and punish the sinner who killed the priest. The power given by God will help us find the truth. At that time, the Empire can no longer pretend not to see it. What we have to do now is to let the Empire know their crimes. Let's go, we will find the truth. Chapter 247, The Wisdom of Count Soren. Longshan County. In Longshan City, a county city that is half city and half mountain, the elderly Earl Solon waited for his magicians and sorcerers to tell him about the research progress of the Thunder Giant, while keeping an eye on the distance. Do you think the Church and that Karisna will know that we killed the priest of the Church? In front of the Earl were several of his heirs. Hearing their father's question, the heirs naturally became nervous. The eldest son, Fetter Solon, who was in the lead, said, Father arranged for the cat assassin to kill the missionary. The only ones who knew about the whole process were us and the cat assassin. The Church will never know. Your arrangement, Father, is flawless. Beside him, the second son, Kashi Solon, also spoke quickly. Father, the Empire will never discover your plan. The war between the Empire and the Vatican has not ended yet. No matter what, the Empire will not compromise with the Vatican over this matter. No one would have thought that we would kill the missionary on his way to Lian County. Naturally, no one would have thought that it would be us who would do it. After all, there is no conflict between us and the Vatican. It would of course be difficult to detect the killing of a Vatican missionary at will. But these were not the answers Count Soren wanted. He sighed and said, "You still underestimate the divine magic system of the church. Under extraordinary power, even the dead will speak. Those necromancers make a lot of wealth in this way, but the divine magic of the church must be more profound than that of the necromancers. I never thought that this matter would never be exposed, so I dumped the body in Lingdu County. It's only a matter of time before the matter is exposed, but the key is that Baron Ryan of the Frozen Territory will block the pursuit of the church for us. Didn't you even think of this? Or don't you think that Baron Ryan of the Frozen Territory is better than you?" Count Soren looked at his eldest son, Fedor. It was okay for others, but this one was the heir to the earldom. Feeling his father's gaze, Fedor felt a lot of pressure and couldn't help but say, "Father, you are right, but can the Frozen Baron really resist the Holy See? He doesn't even have a golden knight under his command, and the Holy See is so powerful that he can't borrow the power of the Clayton family." Count Soren shook his head. He was a little angry. "You still think that Baron Ryan's current achievements are based on luck and the power of the Clayton family, but I want you to understand today that everything that Baron Ryan, the Lord of the Frozen Territory, has now is because of himself. With the wisdom of that little Baron Ryan, he can definitely deal with the people of the Holy See. As long as he can stop them, the Holy See will not know how the missionary died, of course, unless Baron Ryan tries his best to prove that he has nothing to do with the death of the missionary. But in that case, he will have to let go of a lot of things, and then many of his own secrets will not be kept. You guys, have you really never thought about why the Frozen Territory has a population of 20,000 to 30,000 in just 1 or 2 years? The number is too large. This is Baron Ryan's flaw. No matter what the reason is, he will never allow the Holy See to discover his secrets. He has a secret in his heart, so he will stand in front of us, and with Baron Ryan's wisdom, the Holy See will not be able to find us. Also, Fedor, you are wrong. We have recently deepened our ties with the nobles in the south. Therefore, a great wizard in the Imperial Capital Magic Academy became Baron Ryan's patron, and the nobles told me about it as a gift. Finally, you are right about one thing. There is no conflict between us and the Holy See. There is absolutely no reason to kill a missionary who walked in openly. He was teaching his children, hoping that they would be smarter. Several people were still puzzled. But, Father, why did you want to kill that missionary? This matter did not seem to have any benefits for the Earl of Soren's family. Why? Let me ask you, who is our enemy now? The Wise family has fallen, and there is no big conflict between them and the Earl of Winter's family for the time being. Is there still an enemy? The eldest son Fedor thought for a while and said, "Father, do you want to deal with the Marquis of the North Wind?" Of course, the North Wind province has always belonged to us for so many years, but now a Marquis suddenly came and became the governor of the North Wind province? Do you think the appearance of the Marquis of the North Wind has no impact on us? You don't know. That guy in North Wind County is probably biting his teeth. Ha. The Marquis of the North Wind has become the governor of the province, and the annual tax revenue of the largest North Wind city will no longer be under his control. The Winter family loses at least 100,000 gold coins every year because of this, unlike the fiefdom of Count Soren's family, which includes the Longshan city at its feet. North Wind City, the largest city in the North Wind province, does not belong to any noble. It is only managed by the governor of the province. This is also another layer of insurance. If the church bypasses Baron Ryan, the biggest suspect will be Earl Winter, because they want Marcus B. Fang to leave the most. Their losses are too great. Most importantly, Baron Ryan and Earl Winter both have cat assassins. After saying this, Earl Soren couldn't help but smile. He was also amazed at his plan, which was so perfect. In short, no matter how he thought about it, no one would know that he arranged for someone to kill the missionary of the church. Among the 3 nobles in the province, Baron Ryan and Earl Winter, one is the most suspicious and the other has the most obvious motive. It's not Earl Soren's turn. And the purpose of doing this is not only to trip up Marcus B. Feng, but also to make other nobles nervous, so that his Earl Soren can develop secretly. Just like Earl Weiss before, the orcs invaded the south and everyone suffered heavy losses, but Earl Weiss hid the barbarian army. The benefits gained from the Thunder Giants are not small. By the way, this Catman assassin is really useful. While Earl Solon of Longshan County was secretly pleased with himself, the Vatican's troops had already entered Lingdu County. The holy light fell in the cold winter. I didn't expect that the place where Father Buffett died was so close to where we were before. Some missionaries sighed and blamed themselves. They had been in the north before, But they didn't expect that Father Buffett's body would also be in the north. Chapter 248 Baron Ryan and the Holy See. Archbishop, the front is the frozen land territory, this is a barony territory, the Lord is Ryan Clayton, the descendant of the Clayton family of the Imperial Fire Dragon Earl, but this place is far away from the south, and is not valued by the Empire. He is just a baron, and he certainly dare not refuse our search. In the frozen land territory, Ryan in the castle was awakened by the call of the housekeeper. He looked out the window and saw that it was indeed late. What's going on, master? A team of missionaries from the Holy See came to the frozen land territory, and they want to see you. Missionaries? Ryan frowned. They came so quickly, let them come to see me, soon. The great lord of the frozen land territory, the honorable Baron Ryan Clayton of the Empire, received the guests from afar, the enemies of the Empire, and the believers of the Lord of the Dawn. Thank my Lord's Dawn for dispelling the darkness, Ryan said in a gentle voice, which made the eyes of all the missionaries brighten up. When they looked at Ryan, they seemed to have met a soulmate. Baron, you, involuntarily, some missionaries have used honorifics, which they had never done before when dealing with the Marquis of the North Wind. Missionary, Mr., you have misunderstood. I am just an ordinary person. I respect the powerful gods who have protected the southern land under the north and saved us from the pain of winter. The frozen land is colder than other places, but it is warmer than the depths of the north, isn't it? I believe that no one except the gods can provide such a shelter. I am not a believer, but I am grateful for the great dawn that brings the light like a flame. Ryan's explanations have made the missionaries' goodwill continue to rise. As a believer, it is natural to believe in the gods, but it is a rare quality for a non-believer to be grateful for the glory of the Lord. As the saying goes, there is no fragrance of wildflowers in the home. In the eyes of these missionaries, Baron Ryan is such a wildflower outside of believers. The most important thing is that this is still a wildflower of the Empire. For a moment, even the red-haired bigwave looked at Ryan with a much more relaxed look. The light of the Lord shines on the world. Your territory will not be eroded by the cold winter in the north. When my Lord wakes up, the light of the morning will help you dispel the cold winter in the north. Ryan still smiled. Archbishop, you are joking. I am just an ordinary person. How dare I ask for the grace of the gods to save the frozen land? After the courtesy, Ryan asked knowingly, I wonder why the Archbishop came to the frozen land this time. You should enter the Empire from the south. Why are you in the North Wind province? At this point, the Archbishop did not speak, and the missionary behind him said it angrily. Baron, you don't know that a devout priest who was a believer of our Lord died here. We need to find the truth and let the Empire punish the criminals and blasphemous heretics. We used divine magic to search and finally determined that Father Buffett's body was at the edge of your territory. Ryan thought that the body was inside the frozen land area because his territory was slowly expanding, but these missionaries said it was at the edge because of their favorability. Blasphemy heretics? How could this be? Even the Empire would not allow anyone to blaspheme, let alone heretics. He believed in an evil god. Ryan was extremely surprised and shocked. Archbishop Adriana coughed slightly, interrupted the missionary, and said, Baron, it's not a heretic, but a pure blasphemer. We hope that you can help us find the truth, and then the church will punish the blasphemer, and you can also get the friendship of the church. Perhaps because of the faith in Ryan's words before, these people did not doubt that Ryan killed Father Buffett. Of course I am willing to have the friendship of the church, but I'm afraid you have found the wrong person. I have not killed any staff of the church, and the gods can testify for me. There will be no people in the frozen land who will kill the priests of the church. I don't think they have the strength to do it. Ryan's words quietly raised the power of the church, making the missionaries look more kind. We believe you, but the body disappeared at the edge of your territory. Can you allow us to search in the frozen land? This is not possible. Ryan showed the anger of our Lord just right. The frozen territory is my territory. No outsider can act recklessly in my territory. Your presence will scare my people. You should also know that the relationship between the Empire and the Church has never been very good. If it gets out again, I am the son of a great noble in the Empire. The Baron of the frozen territory and the Church staff are not clear. The Marquis of the North Wind will definitely take me to the imperial capital for punishment. You may not know that not long ago, the Earl of Weiss here disappeared because of the Church. Now the whole family has disappeared. Mr. Earl is miserable. Ryan's expression suddenly changed from anger to bitter, and the missionaries in front of him also had angry eyes. Of course, they knew that 1,000 Holy Kingdom Knights were wiped out in the Northwind province. Only Commander Damon escaped alone and recovered after being healed by the Holy Light. At the same time, they were also panicked in their hearts. The Empire was so determined to destroy a great noble earl. This made them feel that preaching in the Empire was extremely difficult. For a time, the audience was silent. Seeing that these missionaries had no reaction, Ryan was somewhat helpless. He looked at the leading archbishop and said, "But you also know that I am the descendant of the Clayton family. Perhaps the Marquis of the Northwind would not dare to easily frame me with a false charge, but in this case, the risk I have to take is very great." Adriana had dealt with nobles before, and she gradually reacted after hearing this. As long as Baron Ryan was given a little benefit, it was not impossible. She took out her most precious thing, a thick book woven with snow-white parchment, which had a similar symbol to the yellowed book that Ryan had obtained before that spread light. It was the sun above everyone's head. But under the sun, the meaning of those runes was different. When the night comes, the dawn is destined to appear, and the light of the Lord will dispel the darkness that shrouds everything. Ryan said it subconsciously. At this moment, he found that the missionaries in front of him, including the archbishop, looked at him with eyes that became extremely fiery. "Baron Ryan, you actually know what it means. What the hell? Isn't it true that everyone can understand it after seeing it? It doesn't make sense." He had shown the book of the God of Light to other people before. It was just soul magic, and anyone could understand it. Only those favored by our Lord can understand the meaning of the divine language. In the church, the most devout believers need to recite the name of our Lord for 3 days and 3 nights before they can grow from monks to missionaries. The divine language contains the glory of the Lord. Ryan understood that within the church, if one wanted to become a missionary from a monk or nun, he had to rely on himself to understand the meaning of this rune. This is a blessing that can give birth to the power of releasing divine magic in the believers' bodies. In short, this sentence is the beginning of the extraordinary path of the church. This book contains divinity. Chapter 249, Holy Water, Divine Arts, and Forensic Medicine. Ryan opened his eyes wide after realizing that the book actually contained divinity. But compared to these missionaries, he was still a little worse. Archbishop Adriana said to Ryan sincerely, "Baron Ryan, you must be a person favored by my Lord. Perhaps you should not be a noble, but a devout believer. I believe that your future will not be inferior to mine, and you will even become a red-robed faster than me." Ryan's eyes became alert. What the hell, they don't want me to be a noble. Thinking of himself who just got up from the bed, Ryan would never be willing to go to the church. It is said that devout believers have to abstain from sex, but this is not acceptable. Archbishop, you are too kind. I am the blood of Clayton and a baron of the Empire. Ryan refused righteously, which made these missionaries helpless. I can accept this book, Ryan said reluctantly, and then spoke again. But this book is not of much value to a noble like me, so you need to compensate me with something else. Hearing Ryan's Dawn Bible, the archbishop in front of him pretended that he had not heard the rest and looked at a missionary who took out a crystal ball the size of his head from somewhere. Inside the crystal ball, there are 30 transparent glass tubes. It should not be glass, Ryan thought, but at least it is a similar product, storing milky white liquid. This is 30 portions of holy water, which can heal all injuries. Even if the heart is pierced, as long as it is not completely dead, the glory of my Lord can save people. They are all missionaries. In theory, every missionary has an obligation, that is, to preach as the name suggests. What is the reason why the church has been successful for so many years? It is because in this world where human lives are worthless, the church's healing technique is the best doctor in the world. Holy water is the top version of healing. Of course, these missionaries who come from afar to try to preach will not be without this thing. In short, it is very precious. Ryan happily accepted 30 portions of holy water, and then called out to a place not far away. Build, the wind and snow were fierce. In this hot summer, the sky in the north was still windy and snow was whistling. A group of people walked in the rugged and winding foothills. Bill's face was a little pale. Fortunately, the magic cast by the missionary next to him protected him from the cold winter. Finally, the group came to a depression. Under the snow, some ashes could be vaguely seen. This place is not disturbed by wind and snow, and it is a peaceful place. Many wild beasts choose to die here before they die, so there are many wild beast skeletons around. This is it, Bill pointed to the ashes and said. In the frozen land, there is nothing that my master doesn't know. So when we found Father Buffett, my master arranged for us to bring him here, cremate him and bury him. He said that this is the tradition of the church, which indicates the determination of the great gods to resist the cold winter in the north. His believers will certainly turn into blazing flames to fight against the cold wind and snow. There is a ghost tradition. Even the church is willing to bury him in peace. However, when they thought of Baron Ryan's understanding of the meaning of the Bible at a glance, these missionaries who had long been brushed up had no complaints and were even very relieved. The Baron is right. The glory of our Lord will forever fight against the frost in the north. As believers, we naturally do the same, but this is not the tradition of the church. Alice, the empire is too far away from the church. The Baron does not understand the greatness of the church at all. The missionary was a little distressed. Even if Father Buffett's body is still there, it cannot be sent back to the holy mountain of the church. Perhaps, this is the best outcome for him. The red-haired archbishop looked at the butler beard. Did Baron Ryan really say that? Of course. Perhaps this is why he can easily decipher the divine language. Perhaps, the reason why my lord has never been able to wake up is because the church has never done anything to truly help my lord over the years. The archbishop said this in his heart, and he had a lot of good feelings for Ryan. She looked at the eternal snow in the north, and it seemed that something had changed in her heart. By the way, since the Baron had already discovered Father Buffett, why didn't you tell us before? A missionary was a little puzzled. He was the oldest, and he was the one who took out the holy water and gave it to Ryan before. Hey, what do you know? My master has enemies in the empire. If others know that we cremated the missionaries' bodies according to the tradition of the church, wouldn't it give them a handle? My master was very scared that day Earl Weiss left. For a moment, several missionaries felt guilty. Indeed, the suppression of the church within the empire was too severe. They heard that the once prosperous Gargoyle Earl family had not made its voice heard on the continent for many years. Even in the territory of the Marquess of the North Wind, they saw gargoyles become the other party's guards. That was once the life closest to angels and a friend of the church. Now they have to please the Marquess of the North Wind to gain the trust of the empire. The glory of my lord will surely illuminate this dark land. The missionaries recited in silence, with piety in their hearts. On the other side, the archbishop had released the divine art, and the light that covered hundreds of meters was reduced to less than 10 meters, covering the ashes under the snow. After a long time, the archbishop's eyes were angry. Archbishop, how did Father Buffett die? Beard also opened his eyes wide. He wanted to see clearly how these clergymen of the church knew the truth about the death of the priest. The master was very interested in this matter. As a butler, he certainly showed great enthusiasm for this. However, after watching for a long time, he still didn't understand the meaning of this magic. Father Buffett died of heart bleeding. Something pierced his heart. The time of his death cannot be found. Magic is not omnipotent, and the archbishop can only get such a little information. She looked at the ashes buried in the snow. Unfortunately, if the body is still there, the exact time of death can be known, and the error will not even exceed 2 hours. But now she doesn't care so much about this matter. Someone killed Father Buffett. Is this magic so powerful? Ryan was extremely surprised. If most of the missionaries of the church can release this magic, wouldn't everyone be a forensic doctor? But, dying from a pierced heart, why does this sound so familiar? Ryan looked at his chest. He once had a wound that pierced his heart. Chapter 250 Rumors and Questions. The two catmen trembled a little after hearing Ryan's description. They were not catman assassins, but ordinary catmen. It should be the assassination method of the tribe's assassins. Ryan nodded. He also thought so. He asked these catmen to come just to confirm. Waving his hand to let the two catmen leave, Ryan muttered to himself. So, the target has been narrowed down at once. One of the two marquises, or even the two of them, want to make a big deal of this matter. The ultimate goal should still be to deal with the Marquess of Beigal. No matter how much power the empire supports the Marquess of Beigal, in this Beigal province, the more serious the situation is, the Marquess of Beigal will inevitably need the help of local nobles. At that time, it will be profitable. No, it should be to take back what originally belonged to them. Ryan naturally knew that Beigal City no longer belonged to the Marquess of Beigal. The Marquess lost his status as governor and returned to his own territory, the castle in the mountains. He should be very angry, right? The reason why I threw the body to the frozen ground and brought it here is naturally because I am also one of the 3 nobles who have catman assassins, but Ryan was a little curious. Is the possibility of Earl Soren really smaller than that of Marcus Befang? Not necessarily. Under the conflict between the Church and the Light, there is also a political struggle among the nobles in this Befang province. Who let that Marcus Befang occupy both identities? In the political struggle, who is the enemy and who is the friend? Even when the dust settles, there will be no truth. In any case, throwing the priest of the church to me is not well-intentioned. In this case, don't blame me for my fierce means. Ryan stood up and walked out of the castle. Prepare the horse, I'm going to Thundercloud County. Recently, Thundercloud County has been very lively, because every once in a while, a large number of precious resources from the other world are transported out by large and small carts, giving the people of Thundercloud County a feast for the eyes. Why is the eye addiction so important? Because apart from this, they have no other way to enjoy a different world plane. Tap, tap, tap. It was as if ice cubes were falling on the frozen river. A dark-faced farmer in the farmland looked up and saw a group of 12 war horses galloping towards him. At the moment when his fear just rose, dozens of cavalry had already passed his position and headed towards the Thundercloud Mountain in the distance. He was a little scared, but after recovering from his shock, this was obviously another topic of conversation that he could pretend to be in front of others. You are lying. How can a warhorse make such a sound? No matter what, I won't hear it wrong. Master McKen took out the drongs he had treasured for many years and handed them to Brock. The iron hooves made by the latter himself were more suitable for the war horses in the north. Ryan turned over and jumped down. A servant hurried over to hold the reins. Even though he was wearing warm armor, he couldn't help but tremble in his palms, because the breath of the warhorse winter was not the hot air of the Highland warhorses or wild beasts. Its breath was cold. On the mountain, the former Earl's castle is now the Marcus Castle. It is said that thunder often occurs here, but I have never seen it. When the Marquis of the North Wind, Carisna Columbus, heard that Ryan wanted to see him, he was very unhappy, so he delayed for half an hour before meeting Ryan. Baron of the Frozen Earth, what's the matter? The Marquis of the North Wind would no longer be deceived by Ryan, so his tone was arrogant. However, Ryan did not care about all kinds of contradictions, but handed over a leather-wrapped object. After opening it, the Dawn Bible belonging to the Holy See appeared in front of the Marquis of the North Wind. The extraordinary inheritance of the Holy See. Ryan, you dare to betray the Empire and collude with the Holy See. The Marquis of the North Wind was furious, and he stood up and scolded Ryan. The armor of the soldiers outside the door rustled and was startled. Ryan was not panicked at all and glanced at the Marquis of the North Wind. My Lord Marquis, when you said this, have you ever thought about what it is to frame a noble? Also, when you said this, have you ever thought about what my father, Earl Clayton, thinks? Krishna stood there awkwardly for a moment, and only laughed dryly after a long time. Don't mind, Baron Ryan. I'm not in a mess because of the church, am I? A few days ago, someone from the church came to submit a declaration of war to me. Damn the Southern Church, how dare they use the death of a missionary to frame me, a noble blessed by the gods. That's really unfortunate. Ryan spread his hands. The missionaries you met left here and appeared in my territory in a blink of an eye, asking me if I killed their missionary. The most important thing is that they actually found the body of the missionary in my territory. Damn the church, how dare they frame an imperial noble? If this isn't a war, what is it? I suggest that the extraordinary army of the Winged Canyon directly enter the Andorra Kingdom and destroy the Feather Dragon army, Ryan said angrily. Then he looked at the Marquis of the North Wind. The Marquis did not react as he imagined, but asked in shock, Baron Ryan, it's not true that you killed Father Buffett of the church, right? Ryan's eyes were full of subtle emotions, but on the surface he looked furious. My Lord Marquis, what do you mean? Are you questioning a baron of the Empire? How could I kill a missionary of the church? I don't have such a strong power. A person who can become a priest of the church, his divine practice is at least comparable to that of a silver knight, right? With all the blessings of the church, how can I kill him? The Marquis of Befang opened his eyes wide and pointed at Ryan angrily. You still want to lie to me? Who doesn't know that you, Baron Ryan, are now one of the 3 nobles in Befang province? And you don't have the power? It is now rumored that the death of the 2 viscounts of Lingdu County was related to you. Oh? Where is this rumor from? Ryan narrowed his eyes. It seems that someone is targeting him. The rumors that the Marquis of Befang said were spread outside. Of course, not everyone can say it, but some nobles random exchanges at gatherings. Ryan suppressed his doubts and pointed at the dazzling dawn doctrine. Then he took out a yellowed book from the preaching of Marcus B. Fenn in Thundercloud County during this period. The contrast between the two at this moment was like the golden sunlight in the sky and the stench dug out from the gutter. Mr. Marcus, you spread the existence of the God of Light in my territory. Did you forget to inform me? Besides, I don't think your stuff is comparable to the one in the church. Marcus B. Fang looked at the two books and his face turned red, as if he wanted to find a crack to hide in. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.